The king of Dirhan announces to the girl standing before him that she is no longer his wife and the queen of this state. The man orders the ash-haired girl to leave the palace and return to her homeland. Banus Rosh Dirhan informs his ex-wife that if she starts begging His Majesty the Emperor, he might leave her in the palace. The fair-haired one throws a document on the ash-haired one's head, saying that although he doesn't like that she and the Emperor share the same blood, His Majesty might take pity and take her back. A girl with pink hair enters the throne room and complains to her lover about the uncomfortable and small carriage in which she traveled here. The person entering is Gloria Estia, daughter of the richest man in Durrani, Count Estia. The girl has the status of Queen Ariadne's personal servant, which is why she lived in the palace, even without royal blood. Pink-haired and King Baines are lovers, and they have never hidden this relationship. The man gave his other half a special piece of jewelry, an elegant handmade silver tiara. The king and the count's daughter have twin crowns, both adorned with black diamonds that are darker than the night and brighter than the moon. The jewels in the tiara are Queen Ariadne's dowry. No one in society expected that the girl who had the most noble name in the empire and the sole heir to the entire state would receive news of a divorce in this way. Banus looks at the ash-haired girl with disdain, suggesting that in the future he won't have to worry about how high her status is. The nobility begins to discuss the former queen and call her an ordinary girl who was divorced. Secular society assumes that Ariadne will return to her homeland and spend the rest of her life locked up, since divorce in the imperial family is considered something shameful. People are convinced that Gloria is much more suitable for the role of ruler of the country. It was known to all that the king did not love his wife, but it was more thought that he would avoid divorce for the good of the family. This is all because Ariadne is the half-sister of Emperor Lucian, the ruler of the entire continent, and his niece. The girl is also the niece of Duke Rickle, who is called the ruler of the southern part of the state. By marrying the ash-haired woman, Banus managed to save his reputation as the ruler of Dirhan, while possessing only a small territory. This marriage of convenience lasted for 2 years, but eventually the king changed his mind because of his mistress. The fair-haired man decided to complain to Gloria about the title of queen, because she could no longer be content with her low position. It was not an easy decision, as there were several reasons to start divorce proceedings over the course of 2 years. The first event was Gloria's pregnancy. The second is Ariadne's rather strange and cruel attitude towards the pink-haired girl. The last straw that pushed Banus to take this step was the confidence that his relationship with the emperor would remain intact even after the divorce. One night, a messenger from the ruler came to the king, who was a magician and resembled a beautiful ice sculpture. The envoy informed Banus that he had already proven his loyalty more than once, so the emperor was not against the divorce of the ruler of Dirhan. The man said that it would be foolish to spoil the relationship because of the queen's dowry. Then the fair-haired man realized that since the emperor said he was not against it, there was no point in delaying any longer. The king also realized that no one would insist on the return of Ariadne's dowry, so he would be able to divorce without any losses. Banus tells his ex-wife with disgust that if she had been a little smarter, it wouldn't have come to this. The man wanted the ash-haired girl to come down to them, mere mortals, for at least a minute and ask them to love her. The fair-haired man wanted Ariadne, just as Gloria had done, to secretly go into his bedroom and flirt with him, throwing aside her pride. The king is confident that under such circumstances, they could become a normal married couple. However, the girl left Banus alone each time, giving way to her mistress, because she was never interested in him. The blonde man looks at his ex-wife with disdain, thinking that her coldness was due to the fact that she considered him a bird not of his feathers. The man tells Ariadne that he never wants to see her face again and will live in peace, knowing that she has returned to where she came from. The heroine picks up the document and says with relief that she finally doesn't have to observe the rules of decency. Smiling broadly, the girl tells the king that he is nobody to her. Banus tells his ex-wife that she has completely lost her mind due to the shock of the divorce. Ariadne thanks the blonde man for finally finishing everything, because she had been holding herself back so much for these 2 years. When the heroine repeats once again that she had to endure them all, the king cannot stand it and raises his tone at her, demanding that she stop. The ash-haired girl smirks and reminds the man that it was not she who started all this, but he. Banus is thrown off balance by the girl's words, because he has never heard anything like this from her. The blonde man tells Ariadne that she is simply in great shock, so she cannot think clearly. The main character turns to Bel, asking him to come out and convey the words of the emperor to the king of Dirhan. Just when everyone thinks the girl has gone completely crazy, a man with snow-white skin and jet-black hair suddenly appears in the middle of the throne room. Belle opens her silver eyes and stares piercingly at the king. The blonde realizes that this man is the same magician he met at night. The king stammers and asks the emperor's messenger what he is doing here. Bel replies that he is here because the empress ordered him to appear here. Hearing this, Banus asks the envoy again, whom he called empress. Bel informs everyone present that Emperor Luciano Kaisian has passed away. This news shocks the fair-haired man even more, because everything was fine with the ruler until recently. The empire had been in the hands of the Kaisian dynasty for centuries, and the young Emperor Luciano had no heirs. That is why the second prince, Arian Kaisian, and the late emperor's half-sister, Ariadne Kaisian, became contenders for the throne. Bel tells everyone that the second prince will not be able to take the place of the emperor, as he was also attacked and died. Banus calls the messenger's words nonsense, not believing that they could dare to attack the ruler. Ariadne asks her ex-husband to calm down and believe this news, since the imperial family's magician himself personally came to inform him of the tragedy. The king of Dirhana is horrified to think about what he should do next if this is indeed true. No one could even imagine that something like this would happen to a ruler who never really quarreled with anyone and had excellent health. Not many years had passed since the beginning of Lucian's reign, when one morning he was attacked and killed. The magician says that since Arian also left no heirs, the throne passes to the next member of the family. Bel informs the king of Dirhan that he was the successor who was to receive not only the property, but also the title. Banus loses the strength in his legs when he hears that if he waited one more day, the entire continent would be his. The magician grins and says that because the fair-haired man's divorce took place before the announcement of the emperor's death, another person will receive the throne. Bel introduces to everyone present the next ruler of the continent, Her Majesty Empress Ariadne Sali de Kaisian. After this, the man's gaze changes to a terrifying one, and he advises the king to bow his head immediately. Ashherd also suggests that her ex-husband pay due respect to the new ruler of the empire. Instead, the man yells at the girl that this is simply ridiculous, because only recently she was just a queen. The heroine winks at Banus, saying that in accordance with the late emperor's message, she has become the new ruler of the continent. Ashherd decides to get down to business, so she reminds the king that her dowry, which she brought with her, was a cart completely loaded with gold. After this, the girl orders that she be prepared immediately so that she can leave the palace before the end of the day, as the king wanted. When the blonde man does nothing, the heroine asks the man in a cold tone if he has gone deaf. Ariadne tells the man that he is obliged to return her dowry since they are divorced. The king of Dirhana replies to this that the emperor's message told him that the dowry was only an insignificant thing. The blonde claims that the mage told him that the ruling family does not want to conflict over something like this. However, Bel just shrugs, saying that he only conveyed that it would be stupid for them to ruin their relationship over such a trifle. The man, smiling, emphasizes that King Durin is not very smart and should have explained everything better. The black-haired man says that if Banus doesn't want to keep his head on his shoulders, he must give up the dowry after the divorce. Realizing his hopelessness, the blonde man falls to the floor again. Ariadne orders the king to complete the task within an hour, filling the cart to the brim with gold. The main character advises Banus to remove the jewels from the royal walls and roofs, or to melt all the jewelry and swords of the guards if he does not have enough treasury. The empress orders the king to cut off Gloria's hair and shave himself if there is room left in the carriage. The heroine turns her gaze to the couple's tiaras, which are decorated with her mother's black diamonds. The ash-haired girl also reminds her ex-husband that he is obliged to return what glitters on their heads. Gloria looks at her lover with concern, asking him what they should do now. The next moment, the crown is torn off the girl, along with some hairs being pulled out. Bel repeats the same thing with the king of Dirhan, who curses him. With a voice trembling with anger, Banus tells the man that someone like him is not worthy of the title of magician. The blonde man furiously shouts at Bel that he has no right to ignore him. To this, the black-haired man only sighs, calling the king an egoist who gave his wife's dowry to his mistress. The man hits the tiaras against a nearby column, causing all the jewels to fall out of them. Bel uses magic to gather the black diamonds in her hand, preventing them from falling. The man returns the stones to the empress, for which she praises him by stroking his cheek. Before leaving, Ariadne says that she can't wait to see what she has inherited. One night, the emperor decided to show his half-sister his palace and empire from a bird's-eye view. The man reminded the crying girl that, as the ruler of the entire continent, her life also belonged to him. The ruler called the ash-haired girl a helpless creature whose hand he could let go of at any moment. After the death of the previous emperor, the main character's half-brother immediately locked her in a small tower of the palace. When Ariadne came of age, Lucian got rid of her by forcing her to marry King Dirhan. The ash-haired girl didn't care that Banus was more pleased with her devotee, since she finally managed to get out of that small tower and gain at least some freedom. The girl turned a blind eye to her husband's infidelities, because it seemed to her that she could endure such humiliation, seeing his face only once every few days. At one royal ball, the fair-haired man told his lover that fate itself had brought them together and he had never loved anyone else. All the nobles gathered at the event discussed the couple, saying that they were perfect for each other. Then Ariadne attracted Banis' attention and, holding 2 glasses in her hands, asked him if she could go already. Gloria tells her lover that he told his wife to wait and hold their glasses. The pink-haired girl presses herself against the man's chest, reminding him that he promised to give her the first dance. The blonde man with a smirk on his face says that he didn't even think that Her Majesty would actually do this, since she is usually not so obedient. Gloria also breaks into a smile, telling the queen that Banis has hated warm drinks since childhood. Looking at the happy couple, Ariadne thinks with irritation that in order to keep this girl close to him, the king appointed her as the queen's personal servant immediately after the wedding. When the ash-haired girl is about to leave, Banis calls out to her, saying that his beloved wanted to enjoy this day with her. Gloria confirms the man's words, telling the queen that they are not disgusted by her company. The pink-haired girl turns away from the heroine, telling her that if she wants to go, then she can do so. The girl sits down on Her Majesty's throne and pretends to say that Ariadne will have to stand, since all the seats are taken. The ash-haired girl turns away from the couple and, without saying anything, leaves the room. Walking quickly through the corridors of the palace, the main character reflects on the moment when everything went so wrong. The girl wonders if it started after he went off to seek Gloria's company on her and Banis' first wedding night. The king began to spread rumors that when the queen undressed before him, he saw nothing special in her. All these dirty words made the heroine angry, but she couldn't say anything in response. Banis then handed over the running of the household to Gloria, telling his wife to get her approval for everything she did. The fair-haired man humiliated Ariadne in front of everyone if she made a minor mistake. The heroine was ready to endure such treatment towards her, so as not to end up in that ill-fated tower again. Queen Dirhana's half-brother hated her from birth because of the blood of her mother, who was Empress Anastasia, and lived for a time in the Duchy of Rikel. Due to poor health, the girl's father died early, and after his death she became a thorn in her brother's side. The heroine knew this, so she was going to live quietly with her mother's relatives. However, as soon as Lucian took the place of the emperor, he immediately locked his sister in the tower. These memories make the ash-haired girl shudder, and she thinks that even despite Banis' antics, it's much better here. The only thing the girl couldn't stand was that Gloria's tiara was decorated with her mother's black diamonds. The woman received the precious stones as a gift from the emperor when she was still a teenager, and they were very well known in high society. The diamonds became part of the protagonist's devotion, which she brought to Durkhan. When the girl saw the stones in Gloria's tiara, she was overcome with immeasurable anger. After this, the ash-haired girl became afraid, because Count Estia, seeing his daughter in a tiara next to the king, decided that she could become queen. Attempts were made on the heroine's life, food was poisoned, and sometimes there were sudden attacks by killers in the middle of the night. The queen was truly scared, and eventually, Banis' castle became no different from that tower. Ariadne sighs deeply, thinking that although she is tired of enduring all this, she wants to live, so there is nothing else left. The ash-haired girl enters the room, dreaming of quickly getting into bed and getting a good night's sleep. However, the girl immediately forgets about this when she sees a snow-white leopard on the carpet in her chambers. The queen is worried that this is the work of the count, who decided to slip her the beast since last time he failed to kill her with the help of mercenaries. Even though the ash-haired girl is scared, she still can't take her eyes off the incredible beauty of the leopard. However, when Ariadne hears the beast's roar, she immediately comes to her senses. The girl decides to quietly leave the room to call someone for help. The next moment, the leopard wakes up, catching up with its prey, and throws it to the floor. The main character closes her eyes, preparing to say goodbye to her life. A moment later, in place of the snow-white leopard, a black-haired man with silver eyes appears. Ariadne turns her surprised gaze to the stranger and immediately realizes that he is a high-ranking magician who is capable of transforming into a divine being. The queen does not understand what such a person is doing here because magicians are known for not leaving the sacred land of Furchen. The black-haired man asks the girl in a sharp tone if she is Ariadne Salier de Cazian. Having received a positive answer, the leopard hands the ash-haired girl an envelope, saying that it contains a letter from her friend. The letter says that if Ariadne wants to leave Durkhan, she only has to say so, and then the sender will immediately find a motive to curse this kingdom. The heroine realizes that the person who sent her this letter is the magician Anakin. The stranger confirms the girl's thoughts, telling her to quickly read the contents. Anakin writes to his friend, affectionately calling her Ari, that the emperor and his heirs have been killed. The man tells the ash-haired girl that he will send her a gift, hoping that she will be able to use it properly. However, This news does not please the girl, because she is the only member of the imperial family of the direct line left. During the marriage ceremony, Ariadne swore to obey her husband and give him all the titles that were due to her. The heroine sighs in disappointment, as she had absolutely no expectation that the title of Empress would ever pass to her. Since the Emperor's heir is also dead, this means that the King of Dirhan will become the ruler of the continent. Blackhaired notes that Ariadne is more angry than upset by this news, so he asks her if she and her brother were close. The ash-haired girl replies that she looks like that because she has too many thoughts in her head right now. The queen rereads the letter again and wonders what kind of gift she is talking about. The girl asks the leopard where the gift Anakin writes about is, but he replies that he has nothing. Ariadne is already beginning to think that the man could have appropriated this for himself, but she immediately drives these thoughts away, realizing that he is too noble for this. The main character realizes that Anakin could not have sent her such a meaningless letter. The queen figures that this letter was given by a powerful magician, so she asks him why he came here. The stranger looks away, saying that good people should fulfill the requests of their friends. Ashhair is surprised by these words because she remembers Anakin's words about how there are no mages in the academy who can be called good. The girl knows that to get anything as a mage, you have to pay a price. The man says that he has his own reasons, which Ariadne does not need to know about. The black-haired man is immediately interrupted by the main character, who guessed that he had made a bet. Magicians have an unshakable rule that if someone calls him by his full name and offers him a bet, he will be forced to agree. However, it is not that simple, because the magicians have long and complicated names, and even if a person manages to make a bet, he can still lose, losing something or dying. Ariadne realizes that her friend was not among the losers, but she cannot understand why he needed to make a bet with the magician. The black-haired man smirks, saying that he himself doesn't know this. The girl thinks about Anakin's letter and remembers that it is the responsibility of the Master of the Tower of Magicians to notify about the death of the ruler and the change of positions. Suddenly, the queen hears about her friend's words about the gift, and she sharply asks the stranger if he is the owner of the Tower of Magicians. Hearing this, the black-haired man says contentedly that Anakin did not lie when he said that the girl was really smart. The magician asks the queen where Banis is now, because he needs to fulfill his duties by reporting the death of the Emperor. Ariadne asks the stranger if Anakin ordered him to meet her first. The heroine thoughtfully says that if she asks a man for something, he will not listen to her. The girl confidently offers the man to make a bet with her, to which he, smiling, replies that she cannot know the name of the owner of the Tower of Magicians. Immediately after this, Ariadne pronounces the mage's full name, calling him Belkarian Dian Rupaleshan Ferhan. The main character smiles triumphantly, seeing the confusion on the man's face, and says that she will simply call him Bel. The queen once again asks the magician to make a bet with her, since she does not want Banis to inherit the throne. Ariadne says that if she wins, she will get a divorce and become empress. While Luciano was in power, servants who were suspected of the slightest violations disappeared, and no one knew what happened to them. However, the ruler took it out not only on his servants, but also on his half-sister, whom he kept locked up. After the ash-haired girl's wedding, she was constantly bullied by the king of Dirhan. The heroine always remembered Count Estea's assassination attempts with a shudder in her heart. If Banas had learned of the emperor's death, he would have immediately seized the throne. At the same time, the main character would become only a named empress and would suffer humiliation for the rest of her life. This is why the girl is determined to ascend the throne on her own. Ariadne tells the magician, as the emissary of the empire, to recognize her as the ruler. Belkarian is the 28th master of the Tower of Magicians and the ruler of the territory of Fershan. The man is the son of the 26th owner of the tower, who was born with the strongest magical abilities in the world. Even though the mages are vassals of the empire, they don't show themselves to people. I prefer to stay in Fershan. The boy was locked away in his domain from birth, where even the emperor did not dare to poke his nose. Ariadne remembers well that there were quite a lot of frightening rumors surrounding the magician Bel. One day, the girl heard that Bel was called a genius because he entered the academy at the age of 15 and studied all sorts of subjects externally. Anakin told his friend that the black-haired man made bets with other students and then deprived them of their magic. The ash-haired girl didn't understand why the mage hadn't been expelled from the academy yet, but her friend said that he had been expelled for some other reason. Ariadne recalls that after Bel returned and fought with the 27th master of the Tower of Magicians, eventually managing to take power for himself. The man laughs at the girl, asking her if she knows exactly what the price of such a deal is. Ashhair asks the mage if he will agree if her offer satisfies him. The owner of the Tower of Magicians notes that there is not a shadow of fear on the queen's face, and since she knows his name, then she knows the rumors about him. The next moment, Belle shudders when she hears Ariadne offering him her soul. The man asks the girl if he knows how the soul extraction occurs. The heroine replies that the magician takes half of a person's lifespan and creates a stone, but the soul must be offered voluntarily. Ash-haired says that although there is a small piece of magic in every person, the most power is stored in the souls connected to the imperial family. Aridna says that Belle will be able to use her soul as a source of magic. However, the man claims that the queen will still not be able to become empress, even if she gives him her soul. The black-haired man says that all the messengers announcing the death of the emperor cannot kill the next ruler or harm him in any way. Belle says that while he liked the queen's offer, he doesn't get involved with those who can't pay. Ash-haired asks the mage if he has a time limit when he must report the death of the emperor. The man replies that there are no restrictions, but he would like to sort everything out as quickly as possible. Belle says that if he puts this matter off for too long, then what happened will be found out from another source, and his reputation will suffer. Ariadne asks to give her only a month, but then during this period, the magician should not inform the king of Diran about the death of the emperor. The girl tells the man that during this time she is going to divorce the king. The main character puts forward a condition to Belle that if she divorces Banis during this time, she will win the bet. Ash-haired offers the magician to make him the empress's envoy if she wins. The black-haired man indignantly says that there is no point in this bet because the girl does not ask anything in return from the owner of the tower himself. Ariadne smirks and says that the deal makes sense to her because then no one will see her pride being broken. The queen once again tells the magician that if they make a bet, he will have to postpone the announcement of the emperor's death. The heroine tells Belle that if he wants to take her soul, he must help her survive. The girl says that even if she does all sorts of crazy things, the magician must still protect her. The black-haired man smiles contentedly and tells Ariadne that she managed to interest him. In the theater, actors perform a play in which a girl similar in appearance and name to Ariadne mocks another girl who looks like Gloria. The king comes to the aid of the pink-haired girl, saving her from the oppression of the queen. The main character looks at what is happening with displeasure, realizing that the future of the art world of Dirhan is rather bleak. The girl knows that this is a representation of her, and thus they want to disgrace her by forcing her to applaud them. Ariadne looks at Count Astea with irritation, realizing that he wants to make a queen out of his daughter as soon as possible. At the end, the actor announces that the entire performance is just a work of creativity, and all coincidences with real people and events are accidental. Behind her, the heroine hears the ladies discussing one of the actors, Rick Tabian. Ariadne remembers that this man is the illegitimate son of Count Astea and is responsible for all the plays. The king of Duran asks Rick to come forward, after which he praises him for his impressive performance. Wanting to tease, Binus asks the queen which scene she liked the most. The blonde man, with a mocking voice, suggests to his wife that next time she personally play herself in a skit. The girl replies that this can be done now, after which she asks the actor to help her rehearse the scene. Ariadne asks Rick not to be afraid and to come closer to her. When the man slightly reduces the distance, the queen, in a commanding tone, tells him to come even closer. The ash-haired girl touches the actor's chest and begins to repeat the words from the play. The girl says that now she understands what nobility looks like and to whom the people should bow their heads. Looking at the actor, Ariadne asks him if there is anyone else who would be worthy of the majestic purple color, causing the king of Dirhan to shake with anger. When the heroine hears silence in response to her line, she steps on the actor's foot with her heel. The man continues to act out the scene, saying that the color purple belongs only to kings, and there is no one more worthy than them. Ariadne agrees with Rick's words, after which she puts a ring with a purple stone on him. The girl smiles imperiously and tells the man to consider this a sign of Queen Ariadne's sympathy. The main character feigns a faltering silence, remembering that in the play her name was different, Ariadne. The ash-haired girl bows to the audience, thanking them for their attention and apologizing for her small slip of the tongue. People watching the queen's acting are shocked after her performance and think that she has gone crazy. Ariadne tells Rick that this ring is a gift from her to him for a wonderful performance. The man's hand begins to tremble violently because on his hand is a ring of a color that no one except the ruling dynasty dares to wear. The nobility begins to discuss the queen's actions, thinking that she has fallen in love with an actor, which greatly angers Binus. Seeing that the king is seething with anger, Rick immediately begins to take off the ring, begging him to take it back quickly. Gloria tries to calm her lover, but he abruptly pushes her away. The fair-haired man orders the guards to immediately take away the actor who defiled the name of the ruling family. Ariadne looks triumphantly at her husband, showing that no one dares to offend her. The fair-haired man's face turns red with shame, and he hurriedly leaves the theater hall. The main character notes that although Gloria is Banis's first love, he truly loves only himself. Ash-haired knows very well that a man cannot tolerate ridicule from others. Ariadne does not understand how a king can be a ruler if the most important thing for him is only his own feelings. The queen knows that even though she hurt the man's feelings, he will not divorce her because of something like this. The next day, Banis gets his hands on a newspaper, where on the front page it is written about the main handsome man of Diran, who looks very much like the king. The blonde man throws the latest issue onto the table in a rage, shouting that it contains complete nonsense. To this, Ariadne only calmly says that Banis himself suggested that she play the role of the queen. The ruler sighs heavily, telling the girl to behave appropriately since she calls herself his wife. The girl shudders when she hears her husband say with a mocking voice that she has no way of knowing what it is like to be a queen, even though she grew up in the imperial palace. However, Ariadne does not react to these words in any way outwardly, and with a smile on her face replies that she remembers this very well. After this, the ash-haired girl's gaze changes, and she coldly says that then she should have attacked Gloria, just like in the play. Banis slams the table, yelling at his wife that she doesn't dare say such offensive things about Gloria. The pink-haired woman stops the man, suggesting that he ignore the queen and just eat together. The girl puts a piece of meat on a fork, offering her lover to try her favorite dish. The fair-haired man immediately cools down and calls the count's daughter an angel in the flesh. The king sits down, offering to feed his beloved himself. The pink-haired girl turns a victorious, mocking look to Ariadne. The main character decides to leave the lovebirds alone so that they don't get in her way. The girl is sure that the food will be very tasty for them since she added the contents of the bottle to it. The ash-haired girl's mother tells her daughter that she needs to find one loyal person at all costs to shift all her worries onto him. The woman asks the girl if she is old enough and if she has a lot of money like her father or uncle. When Ariadne's mother hears a negative answer, she tells her to listen carefully to what she says. The woman tells her daughter that no matter what she decides and where she goes, she must first find someone who she believes will help when needed. Mother tells the heroine to first make sure that this man never betrays her and then shift all the work onto him. Ariadne's mother warns her that only those as weak as she can survive. After telling this story to Belle, the girl concludes that her mother was right. Black-haired asks the queen if she chose Dr. Rude specifically because of this advice, to which he receives a positive answer. Ariadne needed to find someone she could trust. She became the one who saved the queen from poisoning, took care of her health, and helped the heroine hold back the onslaught of enemies. This man is a doctor who, although still studying, already has excellent knowledge. Dr. Rudes was very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. This girl was from a rather poor family that needed her. Belia is surprised that the royal physician might need something, but Ariadne corrects him, saying that the girl is only the royal physician's apprentice. The main character tells the magician that Rudes needed to support her incurable mother, so she helped her. The girl was immensely grateful to the ash-haired girl and was ready to do a lot for her. One day, the ash-haired girl asked the doctor to make a contraceptive for Gloria, which ended up having an excellent effect. The queen no longer had to worry about the pink-haired girl getting pregnant, so she was very grateful to Rudes. The heroine asked the doctor to give Gloria a diagnosis in 3 weeks. To this, the royal doctor's student, without hesitation, promised to prepare a medicine. Belle praises the girl for her intelligence, but still does not understand how she managed to stay in this place for so long. There were constant attempts to poison the main character, but when each attempt failed, Gloria was very indignant about it. The magician says that it is not only the doctor who did a good job here, but also Ariadne herself. Words like these leave the ash-haired girl stunned, and she awkwardly points her finger at herself. After this, the man rises from his seat and with the help of magic, flies out of the window. Ariadne immediately jumps up from her seat to stop Belle. However, when the queen finds no one there, she sighs and says that even stray cats do not come and go as they please. The magician looks at the raccoon named Ruma with displeasure, scolding him for being too slow. The animal turns into a man with emerald eyes and light brown hair. Smiling widely, Ruma tells the black-haired man that he is greeting him too coldly, even though they haven't seen each other for a long time. Belle says that it's only been 2 days, to which the raccoon replies that those were the longest days of his life. The magician asks the guy to stop fooling around and finally start his report. Ruma gives the black-haired man a message from Furchin, which says that a boy from the Rupen family has developed symptoms. When the magician says that he already knows about this, the boy remembers that there is also news about the queen. Ruma tells us that during the time Belle was away, Ariadne managed to destroy an entire theater troupe. The raccoon says that the ash-haired one is much more dangerous than she might seem. The guy tells the magician that he brought him a very interesting device. Ruma hands the item over to the tower's owner, saying that Anakin always gets his hands on good artifacts as soon as they appear, but not this time. Belle activates the artifact, which begins to play scenes from the theater hall. The magician watches with a smirk as the main character humiliates King Durhan in front of everyone. The raccoon enthusiastically says that the girl is truly incredible. The guy says that he saw everything that happened with his own eyes and is absolutely sure that it was not an accident, and the queen thought through every step. Belle agrees with the raccoon's words, saying that Ariadne is quite capable. Looking at the ash-haired girl, the man thinks that she is much more suitable for the role of empress than the stupid Luciano. Suddenly, Ruma notices someone's barely perceptible shadows behind him. The raccoon points to the palace window, saying that 4 mercenaries have just burst in. Ariadne notices that someone is approaching her window and immediately joyfully thinks that it is Belle who has returned. However, the next second, the smile disappears from the queen's face when she sees assassins bursting into her room. The book falls from the heroine's hands to the floor, and its cover turns the color of blood. Belle immobilizes the mercenaries with magic, preventing them from harming Ariadne. The killers don't have time to reach the ash-haired girl with their blades, but she still gets wounded, falling to the ground. The black-haired man indignantly says that the royal guard is not coping with its duties, because at a time like this, they are hanging around somewhere doing nothing. From the assassins' blades, not really hidden under their clothes, and the ease with which they entered the queen's room, the mage realizes that the guards left their posts tonight. The tower's master freezes his opponents and kills them by turning their organs into ice. Seeing the girl shaking like a leaf, Belle wonders what kind of queen she would be. The mage notices that the ash-haired girl got hurt when she fell, to which she says that it's nothing and that Dr. Rudis will help her. The black-haired man tells the heroine not to move, after which he uses healing magic. The black-haired man asks the girl if Count Astia, who wants to put his daughter on the throne, is involved in what happened. Having heard a positive answer, the magician thoughtfully says that it would be easier to get rid of the king. The man says that it is because of Binus that the heroine has so many problems, so if he were gone, just like Luciano and Arian, then everything would be resolved in a jiffy. Belle asks the queen if she wants to get rid of the king because he said he can't get his hands dirty, or if she's just worried about her husband. Ariadne replies that this is not at all the case, because after Banus the right of inheritance will pass to his nephew. These words surprise the magician, because he was sure that the next heir after the death of the king should be the queen. The heroine explains that if the fair-haired man dies before they divorce, then she will have to remain the wife of the deceased king for the rest of her days. The ash-haired girl imagines what a sight it will be when a boy with a bad habit of throwing tantrums becomes emperor. The magician suggests that the girl get rid of the 10-year-old in this case, but she immediately covers his mouth with her hand. Ariadne warns the owner of the tower not to dare touch either Dr. Rudas or Banus with his nephew without her permission. The heroine informs the man that if he disobeys, she will regard this as a breach of the deal. After these words, the magician comes to his senses, remembering that he made a bet with the queen. Blackhair agrees to Ariadne's terms, but says he has one condition. The magician takes out a piece of jewelry with a bright yellow stone and explains to the queen that it is a paired artifact. Belle tells the girl that while one part is in the possession of one of them, the other can see everything that happens to the first. The tower's owner puts a pendant on the ash-haired girl, ordering her not to take it off under any circumstances. The main character's cheeks turn red, and she shyly thanks the magician for the decoration. From behind the door, hurried footsteps and shouts are heard. The magician says in surprise that the guards only realize this now. Ariadne nudges the black-haired man, telling him to quickly turn into someone. As soon as the knights run into the room, they are met with the cold gaze of the queen, behind whom lie the lifeless bodies of the mercenaries. One of the guards, stammering, informs Her Majesty that they have discovered traces of an invasion. Ariadne says irritably that the knights are not fulfilling their duties. There is a sound from the other end of the room, to which the guards immediately react. Having realized who made this sound, the heroine tries to distract the knights. However, despite all the fears, a snow-white kitten with a leopard coloring appears before the queen. A tied man with a blade at his throat sobbingly begs Mistress Roxanne to save him. The attacker warns the commander that if she does not want her fiancé to be killed, she must reconsider the terms of the peace treaty. At this, the red-haired girl silently lifts her bow and pulls the string. Seeing this, the girl's husband begins to shout at her, begging her not to do this. The next moment, an arrow pierces the man's throat and he falls dead. Having gotten rid of the obstacle, Roxana orders her knights to finish everyone off. Archduke Acilier laughs at the fact that the other side actually decided that they would accept their offer of a peace treaty. The man's daughter replies that this is to be expected from such fools. The red-haired girl sighs and asks her father to find her a better groom than that idiot. The Archduke tells the girl not to worry, because the wedding is a serious matter. The red-haired one is worried about something else, namely how the attack on Emperor Luciano went. The The man replies that everything fell into ruin because they hoped that only the emperor would die. However, it turned out that Arian Kaisen also died, having stupidly swallowed poisoned food. Roxanne sets down her glass of wine with a loud clang and shouts that this simply cannot be. Asilier says that now they have a small problem, because now they won't be able to make an emperor out of the dim-witted Arian. The red-haired girl jumps up from her seat and indignantly screams why it was so difficult to leave the imperial blockhead alive. The Archduke reassures his daughter that they only need to adjust the plan, since one fool will be replaced by another. The girl realizes that her father is saying that the rights to the throne will now pass to the king of Diran. The man says that although Ariadne gave up all her privileges 2 years ago, now she will have to become empress. Asilier tells his daughter not to worry, because the ash-haired girl will never compare to her, because she's just a weak and pampered girl. The red-haired girl ponders her father's words, wondering if Ariadne is really as weak as he says. The man tells Roxana to remember that his blood flows through her, and therefore she is the most excellent girl on the entire continent and the future empress. The Archduke reminds the girl that direct kinship is unimportant because the Asilier family was originally much more noble than the imperial one. The man assures the red-haired woman that the throne, which he was unable to obtain, will definitely go to her. Roxana thoughtfully says that the owner of the tower will soon convey a message about the death of the emperor. Asilier says that the king of Dirhan cannot even imagine how difficult it is to sit on the throne. The red-haired one smirks, saying that the fair-haired one needs to be made to understand the difference between a king and an emperor and who really holds the real power. The lady asks Lady Dana if the queen really had feelings for Rick Tabian and even gave him the ring that symbolized the kingdom of Diran. The girl laughs at Ariadne, saying that she still cannot believe her actions. Lady Dana also cannot believe that under her haughty face, the queen was hiding her love for Rick. Gloria Estea explains to the other ladies that Ariadne simply still hasn't figured out how to behave in Dirhan. The lady says that it is their duty as handmaids to teach the queen proper behavior. When the pink-haired girl notices that someone has entered her greenhouse, she annoyedly asks the intruder how he dared to enter here. This person turns out to be Queen Dirhana, who shames the girls for enjoying tea in her absence. Seeing who has entered, everyone rises from their seats to greet Her Majesty, except for the mistress of the greenhouse. Grinning, Gloria asks Ariadne why she didn't bother to warn them about her arrival and even opened the door herself. The main character replies that she received an invitation, but the door was locked, so she had to open the door herself. When King Diran's beloved advised her to call the servants for such an occasion, the ash-haired girl replied that these servants were now wiping their skirts here without a twinge of conscience. Ariadne notes that Gloria, like her father, likes to repeat the same thing over and over again. Count Estea constantly tries to get rid of the girl in the same ways. The man repeatedly called the heroine, who had no friends, to treat her to strange food or point out her shortcomings. The Count more than once gave the ash-haired girl dresses that were out of fashion in order to laugh at her. Gloria puts on an innocent face and asks the queen if she has ever worn the dresses she took so much care to select for her. The heroine replies that she just doesn't want to wear them, to which the pink-haired girl irritably asks if she thinks they're tasteless. Without the slightest embarrassment, Ariadne replies that this is exactly the case and that it is unlikely that the Count's daughter will ever develop a sense of taste. When Gloria hears that she could have guessed this just by looking at her country dress, she begins to shake with anger. Looking at the cup, the queen begins to wonder out loud what kind of poison they might have slipped her this time. Ariadne suggests cutting off the hands of the servants, who still haven't bothered to pour her tea. The maid serves Her Majesty tea, asking her not to be angry and to quickly try the tea, which will immediately lift her spirits. The main character notices that the color of the tea has changed and immediately guesses that the cup was smeared with something. Taking the first sip, the ash-haired girl feels a strong spiciness. The maids just smile innocently, asking the queen if she enjoyed the tea. Ariadne tells the girls that she doesn't understand how she can like this terrible drink. The pink-haired girl tells the heroine that she is worried about her insight, because the king only loves smart people. Ash-haired gets up from her seat and walks over to Gloria, telling her that she must repay her for her kindness. Ariadne squeezes the girl's chin and orders her to drink the contents of her cup. The heroine makes Gloria open her mouth wider, after which she pours all the tea into it. The girl's eyes begin to flow with tears because of the strong spiciness of the tea. The pink-haired girl shouts to the other ladies to quickly bring her water. At the request of the Count's daughter, Ariadne silently pours her some tea. Gloria snatches the cup from the queen's hands and drinks the contents in one gulp. However, the next moment the pink-haired girl realizes that she is drinking from the same cup that was smeared with pepper. The ash-haired girl reminds the king's beloved that she recently said that she liked this tea. Countess Estea bursts into the greenhouse, shouting and asking what is going on. A crying Gloria runs up to the woman and, choking on her tears, tells her that she is in this state because of the queen. Hearing this, the countess in an enraged tone asks Her Majesty what she is allowing herself to do. The ash-haired girl replies that she simply treated the pink-haired girl to delicious tea, rewarding her for her kindness. The countess confidently says that the queen forced her daughter to drink the drink. The woman says that a member of the imperial family should be ashamed of her behavior, and therefore she must be punished. Gloria's mother orders the queen to let her hands rest on hers, then swings her fan, intending to hit her. Ariadne had experienced this pain from the fan more than once, but this time she decided not to just stand and endure it. The ash-haired girl manages to remove her hands at the moment of the blow, so it lands on Countess Estea's palm. The woman screams from the intense pain and drops her accessory. The main character bursts out laughing at the countess's reaction and advises her to be more careful next time. Gloria's mother reproaches the queen that she has not learned anything in these 2 years, to which the girl immediately agrees. However, the ash-haired girl stops short and says that she has still learned something. Ariadne reminds the countess that the queen must manage the kingdom, and she must also hire and fire workers. The woman says that now everything is different, and she will immediately report to the king about Her Majesty's behavior. The ash-haired woman says that this is not necessary, because from this second Countess Estea is fired and can be free. When the mistress of the estate asks on what grounds the queen is firing her, the main character replies that incompetent workers must be fired. Ariadne says that although the woman received a high salary, she still didn't teach her anything in 2 years. Ashhair says that she couldn't help but become a cruel person since she was never taught it. The heroine says that it is the duty of every teacher to educate his subordinate well. The girl pours the rest of the hot tea on Gloria, thanking her for such a wonderful tea ceremony. The pink-haired girl screams and again asks the servants, who are frozen in place, to quickly give her water. Looking at the departing Ariadne, the ladies say uncertainly whether this is the queen they knew. Leaving the greenhouse, the main character smiles happily, finally feeling relieved. Ariadne picks one rose and inhales its calming scent. All this time, the magician was watching the main character's actions through a pendant with a cat's eye. The man starts laughing loudly, causing Ruma to ask him to be quieter, as they are on the grounds of the royal palace. The raccoon reminds the mage that his magic has a limit, so he cannot completely hide their voices. The tower's owner tells the boy to just admit that he doesn't like training, to which he immediately denies it. Bell tells the student that the tea ceremony was incredibly funny. With a smile on his face, the black-haired man says that the queen is quite an interesting girl. The magician cannot imagine how Ariadne, with such a character, managed to restrain herself for so long. Ruma asks, amazed if the girl finally fought back. Hearing that the ash-haired girl was sincere in her actions, the raccoon thoughtfully says that sincerity is poison for people. Belle smiles and says that for Ariadne, there are definitely no situations without exits. However, the next moment the magician shudders when he hears Ruma's question about what benefit he has in this situation. The boy asks the teacher if he intends to win the bet and take the queen's soul. The raccoon reminds the man that if the girl gets divorced, he will get nothing. To this, Belle only irritably tells the student to talk less, after which she uses magic to throw him off the tree branch. The magician tells the raccoon that he will continue to watch what Ariadne comes up with this time. Binus tries to calm Gloria, who is sobbing nonstop on her bed. The pink-haired girl is puzzled as to why the man is not angry at the queen, who is the reason she is in this state now. However, Banus assures his beloved that he is beside himself with rage over what happened. Gloria doesn't understand why the man can't get rid of Ariadne right now. Hearing that the pink-haired girl thinks that he is cooled towards her, the king hugs her, assuring her of his endless love for her. The fair-haired man explains to his beloved that it is not so easy to divorce a member of the imperial family. Banus promises Gloria that he will not let the queen get away with this act, because she made his love cry. The ruler swears that at the upcoming Spirit Festival, Ariadne will understand what a serious mistake she made. The blonde grins, anticipating the spectacle that awaits them at the festival. Noble ladies look with smiles at the dresses of Queen Dirhana, because this style was popular more than a century ago. However, the ash-haired girl was forced to wear such an outfit, since it was chosen by the king himself. The ladies are chatting, discussing that the ruler did this to take revenge on his wife for her recent behavior at the tea ceremony. When the first song ends, all the applause is dedicated to the king of Diran and the count's daughter. Banus sweetly chats with his beloved, praising her for her excellent dancing skills. Ariadne approaches the couple to greet the king. The blonde-haired man looks at the girl with a grin, noting how much this outfit suits her, just like it once suited his late strict grandmother. The heroine is not at all surprised by such words, so she ignores them. The ash-haired girl clutches the pendant and thinks that she would like Belle to observe this situation. 2 days ago, Belle came to Ariadne's banquet in cat form. The magician transforms back into a human to remind the queen of the pendant. The girl asks the man if he came just for this, after which she says that she took off the necklace briefly to change clothes. Belle asks the queen if she is saying that she changed into this ugly dress. Ariadne replies that it is her dress for the spirit festival, which Banus chose for her, telling her to dress like his grandmother, who died 100 years ago. The black-haired man asks the heroine if she really has to go in such an outfit and if there is nothing else. The ash-haired one tells the mage not to worry, because nothing normal will suit the mad queen. However, the man does not agree with this, saying that she is certainly not out of her mind, so he does not understand why the girl calls herself that. The heroine hesitantly asks the magician if it could be called madness that the king had a mistress, and she told the actor that he was nice. Ariadne calls it nonsense that she punished the servant who insulted her and threw out the teacher for failing to fulfill his duties. The girl, already with a trembling voice, asks if this doesn't look like some kind of madness. Belle tells the ash-haired girl that it's okay to feel unfair, so he asks her to stop calling herself crazy. Ariadne shudders at the words of the tower's owner, because before it seemed to her that all magicians were insensitive. The main character turns away from Belle, promising him not to call herself that again, because she is not crazy. The black-haired man asks the queen if invitations to today's banquet were given out to aristocrats with any influence. The ash-haired woman confirms the man's words, adding that only aristocrats or their distant relatives received invitations. Belle says that in that case he doesn't even need to try, after which he asks Ariadne to give him the flower lying on the table. The queen suggests that the man simply go and pick a rose anywhere, since he wants it so much. But the magician stands his ground, demanding that the ash-haired girl give him her flower. Ariadne gives the plant to the owner of the tower, but still does not understand what he found in this withered flower. Belle tells the girl to take a good look at the rose, because it is more beautiful than any other. At the festival, the ash-haired girl once again recalls the words of the magician, blushing. The king of Dirhana informs his wife that he has already decided on a partner for this evening, so she must take care of herself. A distant relative of Binus, Marquis Rupert Dane, approaches the girl. Ariadne looks at the man with hostility, while the nobility discusses his debauchery and selfishness. Rupert tells the queen that he would be honored to be her partner, but she immediately cuts him off, not wanting to keep him company. Gloria smirks when she hears people discussing Her Majesty, suggesting that she cannot dance, which forced the king to find himself a more sensitive partner. Rupert asks Ariadne not to be so cruel, as he promises to liberate her. The man says that no one has ever been able to escape from him just like that, not even shackled and closed girls. The Marquis approaches the main character, and hugging her around the waist, says that he means her. The next moment, Ariadne grabs the man by the hair and pulls it back with force. The queen asks irritably what's so difficult about just leaving her alone. Ash-haired tells the Marquis that he is out of luck, because lately she has been such a scoundrel. After these words, the girl steps hard on Roberto's foot with her heel. The king stops the heroine, angrily asking what she is doing with his guest. Ariadne tells the man that it was the Marquis who first began to allow himself too much. The blonde man tells the girl that it was an obvious joke, to which she, like a madwoman, overreacted. Ash-hair turns away from the ruler and tells him in a mocking tone to try to punish her. The king is furious at the queen's tone and tells her that she has begun to forget herself, placing too much hope in her imperial family. While Banus tells Ariadne that they will see who will laugh last, two girls on the balcony carry a large bucket of water. Ash-haired notices the maids, but decides not to do anything this time to confirm her madness. However, instead of a stream of water, a black cloak falls softly on the girl, protecting her from the liquid. The savior turns out to be Belle, who hid his face behind a mask. Enraged by the failure of the plan, the king shouts at the stranger, saying that he is allowing himself to touch the queen with his hands. The magician replies that he only helped his partner in a difficult situation. Belle takes Ariadne's hand to greet her and apologize for being late. The man kisses the heroine's hand, asking to allow him to accompany her to this event. When the girl tries to find out how the magician ended up there, he hands her that very rose as a gift. When Ash-hair touches a rose, it turns blue. The queen's old-fashioned outfit disappears, and in its place appears an elegant golden dress. The nobles immediately begin to talk about what happened, not understanding how this is possible. Ariadne whispers to the man what he is doing in front of everyone. Belle replies that he did nothing, and that the artifact, which is the rose, is to blame for everything. When the girl tries to drive the magician away again, he pulls her towards him, reminding her that he promised to accompany her. The heroes go outside, and Ariadne finally asks the man why he helped her. As Belle removes her mask, she reminds the queen of her promise to protect her. Ash-haired still doesn't understand how this could be related to the fact that she would be doused with water. Ariadne says, upset, that in this way she could show herself to be even crazier. The girl directly asks the magician whether he did this in order to prevent her divorce. The tower's master looks away and tells the queen that if she wants to think so, he will not convince her otherwise. Ariadne tells the man that although she is a little angry with him, he was the only one who stood up for her, so she is grateful to him. An enraged Baina says through clenched teeth that the queen has definitely gone mad. The man asks his assistant what he thinks of Her Majesty, to which he replies with an innocent smile that she is incredibly beautiful. To this, the fair-haired man irritably says that he is asking about the fact that Ariadne dared to accept a proposal from another man in front of her living husband. The servant hesitantly tells the king that the Marquis was acting on his orders, causing Bainus to raise his voice again, saying that he means the masked man. The assistant tells His Majesty that this stranger is Count Lurk from the lands of Lurk. Bainus says that this cannot be, because he and the Count have known each other since they were infancy in the royal palace. The servant says that the man bought the lands of Lurk yesterday, along with all the titles. Shocked by this news, the king asks how the fourth largest portion of Diran's lands could have been sold. Bainus is confident that the queen is definitely involved in this matter. When the servant asks why Ariadne is doing this, the king thoughtfully replies that it is all because of jealousy. The blonde thinks that the girl wants to make him jealous, and since she can't hurt Gloria, she had to find another way to annoy him. The man is sure that what happened at the celebration is similar to what happened in the theater. Suddenly, one of the servants bursts into the king's office, informing the ruler that a carrier pigeon has arrived from Kesman. The man relays information from a letter that said Duke Acelier was going to form a special force, selecting only soldiers from Durkhan. The king's face darkens and shows horror after these words. The Duke Acelier's special forces are an army personally formed by the Duke. However, in reality, the Duke, as commander-in-chief, will simply get rid of all those who are objectionable to him, placing soldiers from a special detachment on the front lines. Bainus asks if this order comes personally from the emperor, but does not receive a clear answer. The servant says that he had thoughts that the reason for such an angry attitude towards Dirhan was the queen. The man suggests that although the relatives are not on the best of terms, the emperor might have begun to worry that his sister cannot receive the love of His Majesty. The blonde man says that in that case he must take care of everything personally. A maid puts the scent of roses on the queen's hair, causing Ariadne to ask in confusion why she did this. The servant replies that it was the king who asked for the scent that Gloria uses, saying that it is his favorite scent. The ash-haired girl stops the maid, warning that if she takes advantage of this, she will break her arms. Ariadne thinks irritably that first Bainus dressed her up God knows how, and now he's even choosing perfume. The king enters the room, wearing only a robe and holding a rose in his teeth. Seeing such a sight, the heroine screams in fear. The ash-haired girl asks the man what he is doing in her room looking like that. Ariadne closes her eyes, not wanting to see the continuation of this performance. The blonde man tells his wife in a seductive voice that today she will get what she has dreamed of for so long. Bainus tells the girl that he finally understood her hints and why she offended Gloria and had fun with another man. The king winks, saying that he is now ready to give her all of himself. The fair-haired man says that they must conceive an heir tonight, but immediately receives a harsh refusal. Bainus tells the girl that it is too late to pretend to be so noble and that there is nothing wrong with her wanting him. The next moment, an animal attacks the ruler of Diran's face and begins to scratch him. Ariadne looks at what is happening in amazement. Having finished his business, the cat stretches contentedly in place. The main character asks Snowball to stop and come to her. Ariadne informs the king that if she sees such behavior again, she will treat him the same way as she did Marcus Dane. The ash-haired woman warns the man that she has not yet decided whether it will be the same blow to the leg or whether she will tear off his reproductive organ. The king's face reflects fear, and he immediately runs away from the girl's bedroom, calling her crazy. Ariadne asks Belle to turn back into a human, because now no one will come to her anymore, to which he meows in response. The magician returns to human form again, and the main character suddenly falls onto his chest. The black-haired man hugs the queen and says that he warned her to put him down on the floor. When the girl hears that the magician warned her literally just now, she realizes that it was that meow. The ash-haired girl moves away from the man and asks him what he did here and why he attacked Bainus. The magician says that he simply touched up the king's face a little and that no one has ever died from that. Ariadne doesn't understand why Belle is doing this, because on the contrary, he needs to prevent her divorce. The man shrugs, saying that the tower's owner is fickle and only does what he wants now. Belle says he just wanted to bite the king, so he did it. However, the tower's owner assures Ariadne that if he were not bound by a contract with the imperial family, he would have killed Bainus. The raccoon happily jumps away from the arrows flying at him. The blonde curses the animal as he tries to catch up with it. The ruler's servants try to calm him down, assuring him that not everyone can catch such a fast beast on their own. Noticing that the king has run out of arrows, one of the hunters offers to give him his prey. However, this proposal only irritates Binus even more. The man still can't get over the fact that some small animals laughed at him. The blonde recalls Gloria's reaction when she found out where he was late at night. The king blames Ariadne for what happened, believing that it was because of her that the pink-haired girl was angry with him. Binus says thoughtfully that he simply wanted to have an heir in whose veins the imperial blood would flow. The next moment, the blonde remembers that Gloria still hasn't told him about her pregnancy. The man realizes with horror that the problem may lie within him. The raccoon slips past King Durin unnoticed, taking an item from his bag. The animal looks at Binus with a grin, as if laughing at him. Ariadne laughs at the man when he starts shouting at the whole area. The pink-haired girl approaches the heroine and begins to boast that this is far from her first hunt, unlike the queen. The girl proudly says that she often spent time in this way with His Majesty. Ash-haired replies to the count's daughter that she had previously hunted both in the fortress and in the duchy. The pink-haired girl asks Ariadne with feigned interest if she knows how to use a bow. Without waiting for an answer, the girl again boasts that His Majesty himself taught her this skill. Gloria looks at Ariadne with hatred in her eyes and tells her that she and the king had been training long before her arrival. The main character looks at the pink-haired girl emotionlessly, trying to make it clear that she doesn't care about her relationship with Binus. Ash-haired guesses that this behavior may be connected with the news that the king was in her bedroom. Ariadne is not going to tolerate this kind of attitude, so she advises Gloria to look at her mentor and understand that she has learned nothing. When the pink-haired one objects to this, the queen reminds her that her teacher couldn't even catch a raccoon. The count's daughter notes that if Her Majesty says so, then her skills must be much better, so she offers to compete with her. Gloria boasts of her achievements, saying that she was able to win even against the royal guard. The pink-haired girl smirks when she hears that the ash-haired girl agrees to the competition. The girl says that they will hunt game and determine the winner by whoever kills the most in a day. Gloria, with an innocent face, says that even if the queen starts now, she might not make it in time, when she, in turn, has already caught the rabbit while hunting with the guards. Ariadne approaches the girl, saying that she didn't even know that game caught in someone else's trap also counts. Ashhair tells Gloria that she knows she couldn't catch the rabbit herself and asks the guard to do it. Realizing that the truth has been revealed, the pink-haired girl blushes, but she still insists that the main goal is simply to catch the beast. The count's daughter says that if the queen catches something bigger than a rabbit and does it with just one arrow, she will recognize her abilities. Ariadne sighs and says that she doesn't care at all about her confession, so she offers to apologize for her ignorance if she wins. Gloria's body begins to fill with anger because she does not understand why she should ask for forgiveness from someone who is nothing. Confident that the ash-haired girl is simply bluffing because she doesn't want to lose, the count's daughter agrees. The pink-haired girl says that if she wins, Her Majesty will apologize to her for what she did to her mother and for the pain she caused her. Ariadne, smiling, repeats the terms of the competition and tells Gloria that this proposal is rather stupid. At the pink-haired girl's questioning look, the girl explains that if she only needs to release one arrow, it will be easier to kill a large animal than a small one. The count's daughter shouts at the queen to just go into the forest and catch someone. The knight tries to calm Gloria down, but she asks him not to worry about the ash-haired girl because she is very brave and is capable of going into the forest alone. The king's beloved suggests that her rival surrender now, while there is still an opportunity, and convinces her that this will not be something shameful, since she has lost to her more than once. Ariadne takes out one arrow and says that there is no need to go into the thicket. The girl takes aim at Gloria, reporting that a rather large animal is right in front of her eyes. The pink-haired girl fearfully asks the girl what she is going to do. The main character smirks and says that she went hunting. Gloria screams at the queen that His Majesty will never let her get away with anything if she harms her in any way. Hearing a disappointed sigh, the girl triumphantly thinks that the ash-haired girl is afraid of the king. However, Ariadne still smiles and tells Gloria that she hopes that Binus will not give up so easily. The count's daughter begins to retreat in panic and accidentally trips over a stone, falling to the ground. The heroine says that she is not a warrior or a knight, so she cannot go hunting in the forest alone. Ariadne says that since she has no way to catch the beast that is in the thicket, she should shoot the closest one. Gloria realizes with horror that the king has begun to have the same attack of madness as he did at the tea ceremony. The knights ask the queen to calm down and stop joking like that. Her Majesty orders everyone to be quiet and warns the pink-haired girl that she will now shoot. Gloria closes her eyes, full of tears, and screams in fear. However, the arrow does not hit the count's daughter, but the already killed boar behind the girl. The queen asks her rival if game of this size is suitable. The pink-haired girl asks the ash-haired girl what she did here. Ariadne takes Gloria by the chin and tells her that she must keep her promise and apologize to the winner. The girl apologizes in a trembling voice as her eyes gradually roll back and her mind becomes clouded. The pink-haired girl loses consciousness, causing Ariadne to smile victoriously. The agitated king runs into the chambers of the count's daughter. Upon seeing her lover, Gloria immediately begins to cry and complain about the machinations of Her Majesty. The girl clings to Banis's chest, telling him that the queen was aiming her bow right at her. Gloria tearfully says that the ash-haired girl, seeing her faint, only laughed. The king wonders why Ariadne, who has been below the grass until now, is behaving this way, but his thoughts are interrupted by the doctor. Rudes asks the count's daughter when she last had her period, to which she replies that she is half a month late. The pink-haired girl says that she has been feeling a little nauseous and slightly dizzy lately. The doctor congratulates the couple, announcing that Mrs. Gloria is pregnant. Hearing this news, a happy smile appears on Banis's face. The girl cuddles up to her lover and tells him that now she will carry the heir to the kingdom of Dirhan under her heart. The blonde grins, glad that he doesn't have any problems with bedtime after all. The next moment, Gloria starts crying again, but not from happiness. The girl says that she is scared by the very thought that back then, because of the queen's prank, she almost lost her child. Banis can't imagine how the ash-haired girl had the nerve to behave like that. The king remembers all of Ariadne's threats against him and understands that now she has reached his child. A man bursts into the main character's room, telling her in an enraged voice that he knows about all her atrocities. His Majesty orders that the queen be locked in a room and not let out under any circumstances. Banis orders everyone not to give the girl any food or water and not to dare visit her. The king wants Ariadne to beg him for mercy when she is on the verge of starvation. When the servants lock the door to Her Majesty's chambers, the fair-haired man orders that he be informed of everything she does and says. Banis smirks, imagining what the girl will look like with a body emaciated from starvation. Hearing that everyone has left, the main character tries to open the door, but it won't budge. Not intending to sit silently and tolerate such treatment, Ariadne goes to the table and writes something on paper. The ash-haired girl picks up the cat's eye pendant, and everything around her starts to sparkle. After some time, the girl eats warm food with appetite. The queen tells someone that she just wanted a small piece of bread, so there was no need to have a feast. Bel spears a piece of meat on his fork and says that he cannot allow Ariadne to die of hunger. The magician thinks that if he does not set the table, the queen's health may deteriorate, and then she will no longer be able to fight for her soul. The man suggests that the heroine eat dessert as well, since all the girls love them. Ariadne is surprised that the magician was actually interested in this question, to which he smiles, saying that he has been doing this for a while now. Ash-haired thinks that if someone saw her now, they would think that she was pregnant, because even Gloria is not treated like that. Bel shrugs, saying that the pink-haired girl only has a fake pregnancy. Ariadne says that it's all thanks to Dr. Rudy's. The magician is surprised that the queen and the doctor actually pulled off such a trick that caused the symptoms of pregnancy. The man did not expect that the girl would be able to think everything through so thoroughly, creating the perfect reason for a divorce. Bel goes out onto the balcony and says that since the room will be locked for a long time, no one will notice anything. The magician tells Ariadne that someone is due to arrive, but she doesn't need to pay attention to it and can continue eating her dinner. Ash-haired tries to figure out how the guest will get into the room if the door is locked, but her questions disappear when she sees a raccoon climbing up the wall. The main character remembers that this was the animal that Banis tried to catch while hunting. Ariadne approaches the raccoon, begins to pet it, and asks the magician if the animal is his student. The raccoon transforms into a human to greet the queen. Ruma wants to get closer to the girl, but immediately gets hit on the head by his teacher. The guy remembers that he came to report to the magician some news that came from Kesman. Hearing the name of the duchy, the heroine remembers that it is located in the very north of the continent, where Duke Asilier and his daughter unleashed a war. Ariadne asks the magician why the raccoon is reporting to him specifically about Kesman. Bel replies that it is because the girl last time was interested in why an attack was being planned since there was a war going on. Ash-haired asks the mage's apprentice if there is an end in sight to this war. Ruma answers the queen that there is not even a hint of peace, because Kesman does not have such power. The heroine guesses that the Duke deliberately started the war. Ariadne understands that while the war is going on, the Imperial Palace continues to sponsor the Duke. The girl, smiling, says that the Imperial Palace, apparently, is in much greater trouble than the Kingdom of Dirhan. The queen realizes that even though Luciano gave the Duke everything, Asilier still killed the Emperor. Ruma informs the mage that the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Army recently created a special squad. Hearing this, Ariadne guesses that they are talking about a death squad because the Duke decided to punish everyone he doesn't like with this. The raccoon says that none of the squad's men crossed Aciliar's path, but they were all selected from the soldiers of the kingdom of Durkhan. The girl guesses that the Duke planned to kill only the Emperor, leaving Arian alive. However, when news of the death of the heir became known, the man decided to nip the spirit of the Empire's next successor, King Diran, in the bud. Ruma shrugs, saying that this news is 10 days old. The guy reports that a few days ago, a special unit took part in a dangerous operation, and all the soldiers died. The raccoon says that those people were left in Kesman and publicly executed, and their severed heads were planted and placed on the fortress wall. The magician does not understand why the Duke could not simply deal with the king personally, to which the heroine replies that if he had killed Banas, he would have had to bear responsibility. Ariadne says that the king would not have guessed anything anyway, because he simply had to take the throne without any knowledge of royal affairs. The ash-haired girl smiles happily, saying that this is for the best for her. The king is furious when he is informed that for all these 3 days, there has been no apology from Ariadne. The servant says that only dead silence could be heard from the room, so they even started talking to the girl. The man says the ash-haired girl told them she was fine and didn't need anything. Seeing that the king is furious, the servant shudders, but still says that the girl was much more cheerful than 3 days ago. Banas does not understand why the queen still does not beg for mercy, because after 3 days without food and drink, she should already be lying unconscious. The man decides that Ariadne is behaving this way because of her pride. The king would not mind starving the girl further, but he understands that if she dies, he will have problems. The fair-haired man is afraid to imagine what the emperor will do to him if he finds out that the queen died of hunger and not of illness. A servant runs into the office of the ruler of Dirhan, informing them that they have received a message from Kesman. The man says with fear in his voice that all the soldiers from the special detachment were caught and brutally executed. The blonde's hands begin to shake, not understanding why he has to go through this. The king does not understand why Luciano is treating him this way, since that day rumors had spread about the night they spent together. Banas knows that the families of the dead will come to him with disputes, and since they are aristocrats, he will not be able to ignore them. The fair-haired man is amazed that the emperor cares so much about that girl. The man believes that Luciano should understand that he is the best match for Ariadne. The servant informs the king that officials are already waiting for him in the reception room. Out of desperation, Banas reluctantly orders Her Majesty to be released. The man knew that the wedding would be a heavy burden for him, but he did not expect that his hands and feet would be tied in the end. The officials speak to the king in raised tones, accusing him that all those 20 poor people died in vain. The men cannot understand how the ruler could do this to them because their kingdom has always been loyal to the empire. Banas tells everyone that he is powerless in this situation because he is the husband of the emperor's sister and he cannot influence him in any way. The blonde man regrets that time cannot be turned back because the wedding has already taken place. Count Estea suggests that the king consider the option of divorce. The man says that there is not even the slightest benefit for Dirhan from this marriage, nor is there any point in it. The fair-haired man doubts this proposal, but Gloria's father convinces him that the ruler of the empire is a reasonable man. The man offers to negotiate with Luciano and give him enough reasons to dissolve the marriage. The count assures them that then they will not have to upset the emperor by punishing the queen for her misdeeds. Banas says that the dowry that Ariadne brought is too much money for Durkhan, and they simply won't be able to return it. Gloria's father suggests convening a scientific council from all over the country to help solve this problem. The count turns his gaze to the official and suggests that he focus on the child of His Majesty and Gloria. The red-haired man says that they need to send tribute from the kingdom to show the emperor their loyalty, and then talk about divorce. After the words of the count and the official, Banas begins to believe that they will really find a loophole in this situation. The maids look with admiration at the outfit the count's daughter wears for a walk in the garden. The girl's mother tells her daughter that she didn't have to dress up so expressively, but since these are dresses from the king, there's nothing to be done. The lady's eyes light up when they hear that His Majesty presented his beloved with as many as 10 exclusive dresses. Gloria says that compared to the ruby necklace given to her, the dresses lose their value. The ladies recall that the previous gift was not just simple stones, but black diamonds themselves. Hearing praise and admiration, the pink-haired girl only turns her nose up even more. The next moment, Gloria's joy turns to anger when she sees Her Majesty the Queen in front of her. The pink-haired girl, although reluctantly, greets Ariadne, curtsying, after which the maids do the same after her. The main character looks closely at the Countess, noticing that she was the only one who didn't say hello. The ash-haired woman assumes that the woman has managed to forget about decency since she left the palace. Boiling with anger, Countess Estea greets the queen through clenched teeth. Ariadne checks with Gloria's mother to see if everything is okay with her wrist. The woman grits her teeth and says that she is already fine, after which she asks Her Majesty how she has been doing. At the Queen's questioning look, the Countess explains that she heard that the maddened foal was locked in a room. Gloria's mother tells the girl rumors that she was not given anything for 3 whole days, which is why she turned out to be inhuman. However, the woman herself understands the absurdity of these words because she sees that Ariadne looks much better than before. Ashhair says that the king cannot be so cruel to her, so she lived very well. The girl says that even Gloria apologized to her for her rudeness. The pink-haired girl screams that this is complete nonsense because the queen threatened her, a pregnant girl, with arrows. Ariadne smiles and says that she only remembers that she was aiming at the boar. The count's daughter approaches Her Majesty and declares that she will no longer be polite to her as before because she no longer feels pity. Gloria tells the queen to step away, not wanting to talk to her anymore. However, the pink-haired girl is interrupted by the main character, who orders her to get out of here herself since she was the first one to pass through here. Gloria is furious that the ash-haired girl still hasn't understood her place because she is her first love and dear lover. Ariadne shudders when the count's daughter mentions black diamonds. The pink-haired girl says that the king promised to give her the crown with those stones, deciding that it would look better on her. The girl also shares the good news that her wedding rings with the queen will be melted down into earrings. Gloria smirks and says that this is exactly her status in the eyes of the king, and even if Her Majesty is upset about it, it will not change anything. The pink-haired girl states that the fact that the queen is of imperial blood means nothing in front of the king's love. The girl proudly announces that today is proof of this, after which she tells Her Majesty to pay attention to her new necklace. Gloria declares that she can take anything from Ariadne, but a queen who cannot win the king's love can have nothing. The pink-haired girl stops short when she notices a pendant with a large amber-colored stone on the heroine's neck. The girl asks Ariadne with displeasure where she got this decoration. The queen tells Gloria that there are things in the world that she cannot wish for. The pink-haired girl assumes that Her Majesty hid this pendant in the closet for these 2 years, not letting anyone know about it. The girl extends her hand, saying that she will move away if the ash-haired girl gives her the necklace quickly. Ariadne says irritably that Gloria turned out to be not a boar, but a real robber. The pink-haired one advises the queen to give her what she will get anyway. The girl leans against the bridge and, smirking, tells the ash-haired girl that if she doesn't give up the jewelry, then someone will accidentally fall into the pond. Ariadne does not react to this provocation, so Gloria reminds her whose child she is carrying under her heart. The count's daughter says that the people will start calling the queen a real villain, who threw off the one who is carrying the king's child. When the main character hears that the king may divorce her because she, the villain, Ariadne's eyes light up. The ash-haired girl grabs the girl's hand, asking if she can swim. Gloria looks behind her in fear, asking Her Majesty to stop. Ariadne does not listen to the pleas of the count's daughter and pushes her off the bridge straight into the water. The pink-haired one comes to the surface and, choking, calls for help. Gloria buries her nose in the pillow and screams angrily into it. Venus asks the girl to calm down, but she continues to scream that she cannot be calm because she was just pushed into the water. The fair-haired man hesitantly asks if the queen really did that. An angry look is directed at the man, which begins to incinerate him. The king laughs awkwardly, saying that he finds it easy to believe that Ariadne would dare to behave like that. Venus hugs his beloved, pitying her for the horror she went through. Golubkov is distracted by a voice that reminds him that the pond is not deep enough for a person to drown in. The king's assistant explains to the pink-haired girl that if she had been a little calmer, she would not have swallowed all the water. The blonde man tells the servant to get out right now and stop talking nonsense. Venus smiles tensely, asking his beloved to ignore the servant's words. However, Gloria does not calm down, and in a frightened voice asks the king what might happen next time. The pink-haired girl reminds that Ariadne has already attempted on her life more than once, and will most likely try to do so more than once. The count's daughter does not understand why the fact that she might be killed is not a good enough reason to divorce the queen. The blonde-haired man says angrily that he has countless reasons for this. Venus recalls how a girl, right before his eyes, was clinging to another man and calling the king himself disgusting. The ruler of Dirhan confesses that he had already summoned the priests to find out a way to divorce the emperor's sister, but there was none. The blonde man says in a trembling voice that if he gets divorced, he will have to return Ariadne's dowry, which is almost completely spent. The cartload of gold went towards new columns for the palace, landscaping the garden, and clothing and jewelry for Gloria. Venus recalls that the pond into which the count's daughter fell was also built with the same money. The pink-haired girl asks if there will be any problems if they find another way. Grinning, Gloria asks her lover what might happen if the queen's ill-wishers harm her. Holding the dead mercenary, Belle says that Count Estia's antics are simply appalling. The black-haired man wonders what Gloria's father was thinking when he increased the number of killers fivefold. Ariadne nervously wonders why Banus hasn't announced the divorce yet. The ash-haired girl begins to worry, fearing that she has brought too little of a dowry. The girl understands that she didn't decide anything back then, and everything was as Luciano wanted. All the property left to Ariadne by Empress Anastasia was sent as a dowry. The heroine guesses that the king may be afraid of angering the emperor if he cannot return the dowry in the event of a divorce, which is why he is holding on to this marriage. 27 days had already passed since Belle told the girl about the emperor's death. If the ash-haired girl doesn't divorce Banus in the remaining 3 days, he will become emperor. Ariadne congratulates Belle in advance on his victory, saying that she will thoroughly cleanse her soul in order to give it to him. The queen understands that even if she had more time, she still would not be able to do anything. Noticing that the mage doesn't say anything, the ash-haired girl asks him why he isn't happy about his victory. Belle, without looking the girl in the eye, meekly says that he is not happy about this. The man reminds Ariadne that the tower's owner's wishes often change. The ash-haired girl asks the magician what he wants then. The black-haired man replies that now he wants to see how the girl will use her right and ascend the throne. Belle says that for the master of the Tower of Magicians, to be the messenger of someone more stupid than Luciano is too shameful. The man says that even though the soul of one of the Kaijins is noble, it is not worth it. Blushing, the magician admits that even when making deals with magicians, he is only interested in who will come out on top. Ariadne asks in disbelief if Belle wants to help her. The magician does not deny this, but reminds that he cannot harm the heir in any way, nor take his life or lie to him. The tower's master asks the girl if he can still be of use to her. The heroine smiles happily and says that this is enough for her. Hearing the sound of the window opening, the king suddenly wakes up. The man looks in that direction with fear, afraid that mercenaries have come for him. The magician asks not to be afraid and introduces himself as an envoy of the empire. Banus happily asks the man if the emperor sent him to tell him something related to the queen. The fair-haired man asks to convey to the ruler that although Her Majesty's behavior is sometimes unbearable, Durhan will remain loyal to the imperial family. The king promises that Ariadne will not become an abandoned woman because he will not send her back to the emperor's palace. The veins on Belle's face are bulging with anger, and he's already starting to think that it would be a good idea to tear that contract with the empire to shreds. The man tries to restrain himself so as not to disrupt his plan with the queen. The magician tells the king that he has come to inform him that the emperor is not against his divorce from Ariadne. Black Hair says that Banus's actions over the past years have proven his loyalty to the empire. Closing his eyes, the king admits that under the current circumstances, Dirhan has no way to get back the entire dowry. Belle informs His Majesty that the queen's dowry is only a tiny fraction of what the imperial family owns. The man says that it would be stupid for them to ruin their relationship over such a trifle. The magician tells the king that if Banus understood everything, then now the matter is up to him. The blonde grins victoriously, happy that he will finally be able to get a divorce without any losses. A shrill scream is heard from the room of the count's daughter. The girl is told that she was misdiagnosed with a pregnancy. The doctor says that this is serious news, so she urgently needs to report it to the king. The pink-haired girl stops Rudy's, begging her not to tell Banus about this. Gloria understands that the kingdom of Durkan is currently in big trouble, and if the fair-haired man finds out the truth about the pregnancy, he will definitely not want to get a divorce. The doctor tells the girl that she is ready to give her 3 days to prepare, after which the king will find out about everything. After this, everything went as Ariadne expected, since after that night, Banus immediately told his beloved about the conversation with the messenger, and the pink-haired one, in order not to miss the moment, began to persistently demand a divorce from the king. Usually, the entire divorce procedure takes 10 days, but due to Gloria's pressure, the documents were prepared in a day. The queen enters the hall, where a huge number of people have gathered to witness the dissolution of the marriage. Ariadne notes that for the first time during her stay in Duran, she was treated with respect. As soon as the girl approaches the king and greets him, he orders her to kneel. The blonde man reads out the divorce agreement, then throws it on his ex-wife's head. Banus announces that from this day on, Ariadne is no longer queen and is now obliged to leave Durkan and return to her homeland. The main character hugs the scroll to herself, happy that she has finally managed to gain freedom. The ash-haired girl informs her ex-husband that she is no longer obligated to observe decency towards him. A happy smile appears on the queen's face as she thanks the man for putting an end to this. The fair-haired man calls Ariadne crazy and talking nonsense from shock. The heroine calls the magician, asking him to convey the emperor's message to the king of Dirhan. Appearing out of thin air, the tower's master informs Banus that the emperor and Prince Arian are dead. The man announces that since Banis Roche Dirhan divorced Ariadne Salier de Cazion, she becomes the new empress of the continent. The ash-haired woman smiles triumphantly, telling her ex-husband that the dowry she brought with her should be returned. Banis kneels before Her Majesty, begging her to stay in Diran for a few more days. Ariadne makes a face filled with disgust and says that she no longer wishes to see the king's face. The blonde man points to the girl's luxuriously decorated ballroom and says that this banquet was held in her honor. The empress sits down on the throne and wonders whether she should continue to listen to this nonsense. Banis informs the new ruler that the best cooks, dancers, and musicians were invited here for her sake. Ariadne says thoughtfully that, as a member of Diran's family, she could not even try gourmet dishes. The blonde man's face breaks out in sweat, and he says that there was a misunderstanding. The heroine says that she doesn't care about it now, and then asks the king if he really married Gloria. Banis replies that he thought the pink-haired girl was carrying his child, so he had to take responsibility for it. Ariadne says, upset, that the king has always been responsible for everything that concerns his mistress. The ash-haired girl tells her ex-husband that if he had been the same towards his wife, everything could have turned out differently. Banis begins to assure the empress that he was deceived because his beloved was in collusion with the royal physician and lied about the pregnancy. The fair-haired man says through clenched teeth that if it weren't for those deceivers, his relationship with Ariadne wouldn't have gotten to this point. The king points to Gloria, ordering her to kneel immediately. The main character is amazed that the frightened Banis decided to sacrifice his beloved, his first love, to her. The pink-haired girl begins to object to the man's words, but he grabs her hand, forcing her to shut up. The blonde man looks at Gloria with furious eyes and repeats his order once again. When the count's daughter kneels before the empress, she warns that she will not be lenient. Banis confesses to Ariadne that when he saw how she and the owner of the tower looked at each other, jealousy awakened in him. The man sheds a tear, saying that he is truly in love with the ash-haired girl and can no longer hide it. The king tries to kiss the girl's hand, but she immediately pulls it away. Seeing Ariadne's face full of disgust, Banis asks her to think carefully, because she has no experience in governing a country. The fair-haired man wants to convince the heroine that in such a cruel world of politics, such a kind and naive person like her will find herself trapped in the blink of an eye. Ariadne smiles when she hears the words her ex-husband uses to describe her. The man says that he has enough experience in ruling, so the empress simply needs him, so he offers to leave aside all past grievances. The main character asks the blonde man in a cold tone if he is laughing at her now. Ariadne tells the king that the fact that he rules Dirhan is a tragedy both for her and for the entire country. The ash-haired girl asks if the man is really that good that he was so easily fooled. Banis replies that he could not doubt the doctor's words, but now, as punishment for her deception, he has deprived her of the position of royal physician. The heroine praises the man for this decision, which causes his face to glow with happiness. However, the smile immediately turns into a puzzled one when Ariadne informs the king that she is taking Dr. Rudes with her to the imperial palace. The girl with a smirk on her face says that if the healer was able to deceive the smart king, then the girl is very capable. Ash-haired tells Banis to end this performance and orders him to return her dowry as soon as possible. The heroine gets into the king's carriage and immediately notices that it was made with money from her dowry. Ariadne recalls how His Majesty decided to confiscate the count's property under the pretext that he had attempted to assassinate the empress. Since the man could not give the girl her dowry of gold, he had to give away his precious carriage. Belle asks Ariadne if she is sure of her decision not to kill the count, who has brought her much trouble. The ash-haired girl says that she doesn't care about it anymore because the man is no longer in front of her eyes. The heroine reminds the magician that when they arrive in the empire, his work will be finished. The black-haired man agrees with the girl, saying that he has already appointed a new empress. However, Ariadne suggests that the man not go to the Tower of Magicians and stay in the imperial palace. Belle's heart begins to beat faster, and he asks why he should stay. The mage's hopes are dashed when the empress says that if the tower's master supports her, the aristocrats will not harass her or unite against her. The girl says that outside of Ferchen, there is a tendency to discriminate against magicians, and if Belle joins the meetings of the aristocracy, it can weaken this tendency. Belle tells the ash-haired girl that it will only be good for her, but for him, it will be mortal boredom. Based on Ariadne's proposal, the man notes that she studied politics. The empress says that her mother taught her a lot, even some useless things. The girl says that her mother dedicated her to the duties of the ruler of the empire. Belle tells Ariadne that he cannot live in the palace forever, and that sooner or later he will have to leave. The heroine asks if this is connected with what happened on the magician's lands, but immediately stops short when she sees his menacing gaze. Once upon a time, The ash-haired girl's mother warned her that even the emperor did not dare interfere with what was happening on the territory of the magicians. Ariadne covers her mouth, scolding herself for the fact that she could forget such an elementary thing. Belle approaches the heroine, asking if she is scared now. The next moment, a happy smile appears on the man's face, and he reminds the ash-haired girl that when they first met, she was also afraid of him. Ariadne laughs and immediately apologizes for this, saying that she simply remembered his image as a cat. Blushing slightly, Belle asks the heroine to call him Leopard in private, since even Anakin doesn't know what his immortal body looks like. Ash-haired asks if all mages must have such terrifying immortal bodies. The black-haired man says that his mother had the body of a dragon. The man says that initially all the tower's owners are so strong that no one can approach them. Ariadne is surprised that the great Amaryllis was a dragon and wanted her son's immortal body to be a cat. The girl lets out a laugh, saying that the cat is much cuter. At Belle's questioning look, the ash-haired girl explains that cats can be hugged when it gets cold. Hearing this, the magician, without thinking, turns into a small, furry animal. Ariadne is amazed by the black-haired man's actions and reminds him that he is not actually a cat. The Empress sighs, realizing that it is her own fault, because before this she provoked the magician by calling him cute. The heroine recalls that she once heard that one should be wary of the tower's owner. However, the girl thinks that no one gave her advice not to fall under the charm of soft fur. Baron Bent informs those present that a month after they learned of the Emperor's death, they still do not know the new ruler. Duke Rickle and Baron Tubert find it strange that no news has come from Diran. Tubert remembers that Anakin sent his messenger a month ago, but nothing happened after that. Bent asks those gathered if anyone sent a man to Durkhan to inform the king of the ruler's death. Countess Hermann raises her hand, indicating that she too had a messenger. However, the woman says she was never able to check whether her man had arrived or not. Bent asks Hermann why she did it, and Baron Tubert says that the Countess most likely sent the portrait to her niece. The woman explains her actions by saying that one must always grab the young emperor by the nuts while he still doesn't know anything. Baron Bent informs everyone that if their new emperor falls for this, he washes his hands of it and returns to his territory. Tubert disagrees with the Baron, saying that a ruler who knows nothing cannot help but fall for it. The man asks the other aristocrats if they have prepared a bribe for the emperor. Baron Tubert says that he has prepared a mountain of jewels that he is going to present to his majesty, and has even decorated everything in the colors of Diran. The countess laughs at the Baron, saying that her niece will take care of the riches when she becomes his mistress. The man rushes to disappoint Hermann by telling her that King Durhan already has a lover. Hearing this, the woman thoughtfully says that in that case she will have to kill that girl. The countess says that if the child that the pink-haired girl is carrying is born, it could complicate everything. Tubert says that upon the return of Archduke Acelier, it will no longer matter who sits on the throne. The woman smirks, saying that they just need to take care of things until then. The Baron confidently says that Duke Rickle should like this, which causes him to look at the aristocrat in surprise. Tubert reminds the man that his niece has become empress, so she can finally step out of her mother's shadow. Rickle says the Baron is right, but as long as they confront the Archduke, it doesn't matter. Suddenly, an ash-haired girl enters the hall, turning the gaze of those gathered to her. The Baron jumps up from his seat, demanding that the uninvited guest leave this place immediately. Ariadne smirks, reminding the man that they met a couple of times in childhood, but he apparently forgot about it. The heroine sits down on the throne, causing the Baron to immediately start shouting that this is the Emperor's sacred place. The girl proudly tells everyone that she is the new ruler of this empire. Tubert calls the ruler's words complete nonsense because the new emperor is the king of Dirhan. Ariadne notices the color of the pillow she is sitting on and remembers that there are dark purple things scattered throughout the palace. The Empress takes the pillow and throws it on the floor in disgust. The girl says that she hates this color, especially she can't stand purple sapphires. The Baron becomes furious and shouting asks the ash-haired girl who she is. Ariadne calls the man slow-witted and reminds him of her words that she is now the new ruler of the empire. Seeing that they still don't believe her, the heroine asks the magician to convey her words to the Baron. The black-haired man informs everyone that he, the owner of the tower from the lands of Furchen, as an envoy of the empire, has fulfilled his duty and returned. When Belle announces the name of the new ruler, everyone is shocked to hear it. Baron Bent and the Countess are amazed to say that they did not recognize the girl, as they had not seen her since she left for the Duchy of Rikiel. Tubert does not understand what Ariadne is doing here, because according to the marriage contract, all the titles of the princess passed to the ruler of Dirhan. Ashhaired tells those present that she divorced the king a couple of days ago, so this contract is no longer valid. The girl reminds the aristocrats that Luciano and Arian are dead, so all rights to the throne have gone to her. The heroine asks to greet her quickly and finish all the formalities so that she can finally go and rest after a long journey. Baron Bent hesitantly says his words of greeting, after which the others repeat after him. As a child, Ariadne was constantly ignored by the aristocrats because she was a princess whose existence was invisible thanks to the efforts of Luciano. The girl was publicly flogged because she was thrown out of the palace. Although the heroine had not aimed at the place of the emperor from an early age, however, having climbed here now, it does not seem so bad to her. After the welcoming ceremony, Ariadne meets Anakin, happily hugging him upon meeting him. The magician looks with displeasure at the sweet conversation between the fair-haired man and the empress about the letter. The girl scolds Anakin for the way he conveyed the news about the throne, to which he says that he came up with such a way so that no one but her would read the important information. The blonde man says that he is happy that the main character understood him and became the empress, returning to him. The man hugs Ariadne tightly, but she immediately asks him to let her go. The ash-haired girl is pulled out of the embrace by the magician, who had been looking at the heroes with displeasure all this time. With a tight smile, Anakin asks Belle if he wants to be hugged too. Seeing the confrontation between the men, Ariadne asks them if they are friends. Belle replies that he is fine alone, and the fair-haired man convinces the girl that he felt sorry for the loner with a bad character, so he became friends with him at the academy. The heroine stops the magicians, reminding them that they have more important things to do now. Anakin gets down on one knee and, taking the Empress's hand, asks her to give him an order. Ariadne appoints Anakin Willow as her official assistant. Belle asks the ruler with a displeased face if she really trusts this magician, to which she replies that she and Anakin are old friends. The fair-haired man kisses Her Majesty's hand, swearing eternal fidelity to her. The black-haired man still asks Ariadne to be on guard, since the magician has outsmarted many at the academy by lending money to others at high interest rates. Anakin tells his friend that if he beat him at Baduk, it is not cheating. The blonde man reminds Belle that he sucked the magic out of everyone, collecting souls. Ariadne asks the men to stop, as she has already realized how difficult their school years were. Ash-haired asks the mage to give her and Anakin a minute to discuss something. Having obeyed the Empress, the black-haired man lies down on a nearby sofa. Ariadne asks her friend what the situation is like in the palace now, to which she receives the answer that there is complete chaos here. The fair-haired man says that while the sick Luciano spent his time in the bedroom, real power passed into the hands of the aristocrats. The magician says that it was precisely because of this that the nobility did not even think of submitting to the new ruler. The Empress's assistant reports that Archduke Aciliar and his daughter, Princess Roxana, currently wield greater power. A little girl, with her trembling body, shields a horse and asks someone not to touch her. Roxana Acilier pushes the ash-haired girl away, screaming that she doesn't need a horse that brings in second place. The red-haired one wounds the horse, but does not kill it completely. The girl tells Ariadne that the animal will now suffer, since she blocked its path. Roxana Acilier was a child whose aura was not at all that of a child. The girl was the same as her father, who killed his soldiers who did not win in battle. Belle listens attentively to the heroes, who discuss the Acilier family, who terribly hate to lose. The main character asks the magician why after the victory, the Archduke and his daughter did not return back, but remained in Kesman. The man replies that there is no simpler excuse for taking money out of the treasury than war. Ariadne reflects that the princess is now like the sword of the empire, but the problem is that it always tries to pierce its owner. Ash-haired understands that by putting Arian on the throne, Roxanne would be able to twist him as she wants. But now, having heard the news, she will try to kill her. Anakin says that Ariadne is not so easy to tame, so before the Aciliars arrive, they need to restore order. The fair-haired man says that the aristocracy is as much a mess as the palace. The nobility hate each other, as each wants to put someone from their family in the place of the Empress's advisor. The magician says that he drove a wedge between the aristocrats so that they could not unite. The man says that if the nobility finds out about Ariadne's machinations, they can unite for a while. The girl realizes that until then, they need to lure at least one person to their side. Ashhair asks her friend who she can lure away so that he will be able to resist the Archduke. Anakin smirks and says that the main character already knows that there is only one such family. The Empress looks at the magician for a long time, then turns her head away, asking if there is anyone else besides them. The fair-haired man says that no one but the defeated Duke Rickle from the south can resist the Aciliars. The girl stutters about Baron Bent, but Anakin immediately rejects his candidacy because he is from a small family, so he will not destroy it for the sake of loyalty to the crown. The man also does not agree with Countess Hermann's candidacy, since she does not like to suffer losses and will not do anything that is not beneficial to her. The ash-haired girl sighs, wondering if Duke Rickle will take her side. The girl remembers how one day a man turned away from her, not believing her truth. Ariadne asks her assistant to tell the Duke that she wants to meet him alone. After receiving his instructions, Anakin turns to Belle, telling him to return home since he is finished with his business. The magician asks the heroine if she thinks that she can defeat the Duke this way, to which she replies that she has no other way, because Belle does not want to help her. The black-haired man asks the girl if she would choose him if she could. Ariadne sits down next to the magician and asks with a smile if he will stay by her side if she says so. From such closeness, the tower owner's face turns slightly red, and his heart begins to beat faster. However, the mage responds negatively, saying that according to Anakin, he must leave, because his work is finished. After a short pause, Belle tells the Empress that he will return to her soon. The man gently touches Ariadne's hair, saying that the palace turned out to be much more interesting than he thought. The Empress enters Duke Rickel's office, causing him to immediately jump up from his seat to greet her. When the heroes sit down at the table, an awkward silence hangs over them. A moment later, the relatives begin to speak at the same time. Ariadne that she forgives the Duke, and he that he is ready to forget everything. Hearing his niece's words, the man indignantly says that his family did nothing bad to her. The girl shouts to the Duke that he, at Luciano's request, handed her over to him, and now he doesn't even repent. Ariadne reminds that 3 years ago, as soon as the Emperor ascended the throne, an order was issued to interrogate her, suspecting her of rebellion, and Rickel immediately handed her over. Ashhaired says that although she does not bear the Duke's surname, she is his sister's daughter. The heroine asks the man where else there is someone who would send his niece, with whom he lived, to such a dangerous place. Rickel tries to justify his actions by saying that it was not he who locked the girl up, but His Majesty, the late Emperor. The heroine's hands begin to tremble with anger when she hears that the Duke did everything in his power. The man says that he really did everything to ensure that she did not feel uncomfortable during her stay in his house. Ariadne recalls that before the turning point, she lived with her uncle as a miserable parasite. In that noble place, devoid of any affection, the heroine lived like a mouse, fearing everything. Although the Duke was not unkind to the heroine and never caused her pain, she still expected something more from him. Ariadne recalls that although the man was the ruler of the southern territories, he could not disobey the emperor's order. The girl is well aware that if Rickel had helped her when she was accused of treason, the duchy would also have come under suspicion. However, even understanding all this, the heroine cannot get rid of the thought that a man could have interfered with what was happening. Ashhaired decides not to argue with Rickel anymore, but still says that he could have at least told her where she would be sent. The man tells his niece that the previous emperor had prevented him, so he could not do anything. The ash-haired girl asks the Duke why she should apologize to him. Uncle reminds Ariadne that she, knowing that the Willow family is the servant of the Rickel family, appointed their son, Anakin, as an imperial advisor. The man learned about this news when the fair-haired man came to deliver a request from the Empress for a personal meeting. Rickel is angry at the heroine because he planned to make Anakin his assistant. The Duke reminds us that his family values skilled employees above all else. The man tells Ariadne that he is not going to let her get away with taking the best geniuses of the Empire. Ashhaired remembers her mother's words that she should choose someone who, in her opinion, can help even in difficult times. The woman asked her daughter to remember that she should involve such a person in all her affairs and make him devoted to her until death. The girl, as her mother taught her, did everything possible to create her own environment. Ariadne thinks that one can understand the reason for the Duke's anger, because Anakin is the outstanding genius he was waiting for. Rickel sighs, saying that he will try to forget about it, as he understands that his family would not be able to completely possess the mage. The main character finally decides to get to the point, so she tells the man that she has a proposal. The knights shudder when they hear the girl's piercing scream. The men whisper to each other, which could have angered their commander this time. The knights agree that the girl may have received orders to stop the battle in Kesman due to the start of the agricultural season. Behind the red-haired girl, someone tells her to calm down. Roxana turns to the speaker and replies in an irritated tone that she cannot calm down if some eccentric has ascended to the throne. The girl throws the sword to the ground with force, screaming why Ariadne became the new ruler and not someone else. Roxana's father tries to calm his daughter down, saying that her anger won't change anything. However, the girl does not listen to the man, reminding him that they, the true masters of this world, are only now learning who has become the new ruler. Roxana tries to understand why Ariadne ascended to the throne so late and how it happened that she divorced at the last minute. The Archduke says that it is not their fault because the King of Durin turned out to be a real fool. The man cannot believe that Banis divorced the Empress because of his mistress. The red-haired girl screams at her father that she will never believe that there are such narrow-minded people in the world. Acilier tells Roxana that the king also gave away all the dowry that the empress brought, including the jewels of Empress Anastasia. The girl asks her father what kind of person the new ruler is, to which he answers that she is a very simple person. The Archduke tells his daughter that the ash-haired girl was born into an imperial family but immediately lost her mother, so she was not properly educated. The man says that the girl trembled at the sight of Luciano and calmly endured the stupid King Diran. Acilier assumes that Ariadne is now in torment because she has gone through the most difficult thing in her life, a divorce. Roxana asks in surprise if the new empress really suffered from that mistress. The red-haired one wonders if the daughter of Empress Anastasia could have grown up like this. The Archduke assures his daughter that, compared to Ariadne will be even easier to control, since she has been playing the role of a puppet her entire life. Roxanne suggests sending a warning to the ash-haired one, but to do it in person, and not like with the King of Dirhan. The girl with wild eyes says that the new empress must fall at the feet of the Archduchy of Acilier if she does not want to die. The aristocrats discuss the news that the King of Diran could no longer live like this with his mistress, so he announced a divorce from the empress. Tubert cannot believe that His Majesty actually missed the opportunity to become the ruler of the empire for the sake of some mistress. During the discussions, the men come to the conclusion that the empress knows nothing about ruling, so all she can do is trust the words of the aristocrats. The nobility begins to decide who they will choose for the role of imperial advisor, but Baron Bent notes that the girl does not seem weak-willed to him. The empress enters the conference room in an elegant snow-white cloak. Ariadne attracts the scrutinizing glances of those present, who are trying to understand whether they can really control her. The main character sits down on the throne and thanks the aristocrats for maintaining order in the empire until now. Ash-haired immediately gets down to important matters, offering to discuss the war in Kesman. Tubert asks the empress why she started on this particular topic so suddenly, to which Ariadne replies that she heard about their preparations on this issue. Agreeing with the empress, the baron sits down, thinking that he wanted to gradually start a conversation about the war. The man reports that Archduke Acilier and his daughter are currently engaged in a fierce battle in the kingdom of Kesman. The baron tells us that the special squad formed by Acilier was completely destroyed by the enemy army. Ariadne looks through the reports, thoughtfully saying that they are talking about the detachment that consisted of Durkan's soldiers. A puzzled Tubert says that in difficult times, additional capital is needed. Ash-haired reminds those gathered that the Archduke has already asked for money 3 times this year. The baron tries to justify these expenses, but the empress says that even if the enemy has an army of 10,000, the imperial army is 10 times larger. Ariadne says with a grin that Kesman's army turned out to be too good at waging war. Tubert awkwardly says that those territories have steep terrain, which plays into the hands of their owner. The heroine once again reminds everyone that the funds allocated for the army this year were completely spent last time, and now they have nowhere to get money from. The baron smirks and tells the ruler that the amount requested is not that big. The aristocrat suggests taking the money from Ariadne's dowry, which she received after the divorce. The main character cannot believe that the baron had the audacity to ask to give her property to someone who thirsts for her submission. The man tells Her Majesty that he can understand why she is upset, but still suggests that she look at the bigger picture. Tubert tries to convince the girl that if they are defeated in the north, their empire will collapse, and they could lose their most talented commander-in-chief. The baron claims that if the empress realizes the importance of the war, she will be able to fulfill the Archduke's request. The other aristocrats look on in shock at how the baron is able to smoothly lay out things that are beneficial to himself. Ariadne says that she understood everything, especially that the previous emperor was far from martial arts and war strategy. Tubert smiles radiantly as he informs the girl that the Archduke would be incredibly grateful if she would send her property to pay for the army's expenses. However, the next moment, a questioning smile appears on the baron's face when he hears that the empress is asking the opinion of the others. Ariadne asks those present whether it would not be better to reach a peace agreement than to continue a war that no one knows when it will end. Lord Nor tells the ash-haired girl that they have been fighting this difficult battle for a year now, and the Archduke and Princess have already saved the empire from destruction several times. Tubert agrees with the lord and points out that the princess's fiancé was recently killed, so they must repay in full as consolation. The baron admits that the empress's dowry may not even be enough to thank the Archduke for his loyalty to the empire. Realizing that the aristocrats will continue to persist, the heroine orders them to stop. The ash-haired girl smiles widely, agreeing with the noble's words that she doesn't know anything yet. The baron angrily says that in that case the girl had better listen to them, but she suggests postponing it. Ariadne tells Tubert that she is not trying to ignore them and has heard their proposal, but she needs time to think it over. The aristocrats smirked at each other, thinking that the ash-haired one would do as they said, since the empress who knew nothing would never defeat Acilier. The ruler warns everyone that she will decide everything by the next meeting, and by that time, if the archduke wants to speak out, he will have to write her a letter. After the meeting, Anakin offers to escort Her Majesty to the reception room. When the ash-haired girl was in a personal meeting with Duke Rickle, she decided to make him an offer. Ariadne knew from her mother that the Duke's family did not betray their own, but she also understood that it would be difficult for a man to accept her as a member of his family and take her side. Realizing all these nuances, the heroine decided to offer something to the Duke. Her Majesty. The Empress is greeted by a girl with hair the color of the sun, Penelope Reichel. The ash-haired girl tells the girl that more than 3 years have passed since their last meeting. Seeing the girl's tense expression, Ariadne asks her if she is glad to meet them. The heroine smiles tenderly at Penelope and extends her arms forward for a hug. The blonde, with tears in her eyes, calls the Empress little sister, after which she hugs her tightly. Penelope was the only child who interacted with Ariadne. Penelope only had a brother, so when she had a sister, she constantly demanded that she play with her. However, this only lasted until Ariadne was forcibly taken to the palace. The blonde smiles happily, saying that she was the happiest when she found out that the Empress was calling her to her. The heroine thinks with relief that her sister has not changed her attitude towards her after so much time, and still greets her joyfully. Ariadne allows the girl to call her sister when they are alone, even though the Duke has forbidden her to do so. The ash-haired girl says with pride in her eyes that Penelope has matured and is now ideal for the role of a personal servant. Hearing this, the Duke's daughter blushes and incredulously whispers the Empress's proposal. Ariadne misinterprets her sister's expression and says that she can come back if she was forced to come here. The blonde says that while she is happy to become Ariadne's personal servant, she also knows that she is making such an offer in order to unite with the Reichel family. The girl warns the heroine that it will be difficult for her to gain recognition by teaming up with Reichel. Penelope advises the Empress to form an alliance with more influential aristocratic families. Ariadne recalls that this is exactly what the Duke pointed out to her during their personal meeting. Reichel said that it would be an honor for them if Penelope became the Empress's personal servant, but that it would be difficult for them to be considered family. Then the heroine promised to show the Duke her devotion to his lordship's family. Ariadne gently strokes the blonde's cheek, saying that she will not find a more noble girl anywhere that she can trust. The Empress asks the girl to focus on her future. The ash-haired girl sits down and tells her sister that the position of Her Majesty's personal servant could give her both a title and a profitable marriage. Penelope says that this does not interest her, but she wants to be in the center of high society. The blonde tells Ariadne that she wants to be like the previous Empress Anastasia, who was called the Treasure of the Empire. The Duke's daughter says that she admires the Empress because she had great talent and could stop a major war with just her beautiful speeches. The heroine asks Penelope if she had a debut in high society, and when she receives a negative answer, she promises to arrange a luxurious ceremony for her right in the imperial palace. At the event, Anakin approaches Ariadne to ask if she is sure about her decision to make her first banquet not an inauguration ceremony, but a ball in honor of the debut of Lady Penelope Reichel. Hearing that the most important thing for the girl was to gather people, the magician sighs, saying that the real benefit from this banquet will clearly not be received by the Duke's daughter. Ariadne tells her assistant to look at the people's eyes. The girl says that this party is filled with luxury, and the main character in the center of the hall catches the eyes of all the guests. The noble ladies discuss with admiration that they are very envious of Penelope because her debut took place in the imperial palace itself. The ash-haired one tells Anakin contentedly that the blonde one's assessment is actually doing her good. When the magician asks the ruler if she thinks the plan will succeed, Ariadne reminds him that they came up with it together. The heroine says that if nothing works out, she will give her dear uncle one present. The aristocrats are excitedly discussing what good support the Reichel family has, since they arranged such a magnificent debut for the Duke's daughter. One of the ladies says that the Empress did this because she still doesn't have her own people in the palace, so she decided to show how much she cares about her personal servant. One of the young men suggests that the ruler wants to lure the Reichel family to her side. The girl with the short haircut says that Penelope's expensive dress and the luxurious banquet in her honor clearly have some meaning. The lady notes that, from the blonde's clothes to her manner of speech, the entire image is taken from the late Empress, even the scent of her perfume. The girl says that if the point of the banquet is to give all this to a loser from the south, then the Empress's limit is the small state of Dirhan. Hearing the lady's suggestion, Ariadne and Anakin exchange glances, smiling contentedly. The previous Emperor Kallian Palaskasian, the father of the main character, appointed Anastasia as the second empress. The girl was not interested in either the blood-red rubies or the deep green emeralds. Anastasia loved black jewelry, which was much darker than the deepest sea and resembled space, in which the stars shine. The emperor presented a pair of such diamonds with the words that only to her, who had become the treasure of the empire, could he present such a gift. It became a romantic story, and black jewelry became popular throughout the empire. The empress asks her sister if she likes the banquet. Penelope bows to her majesty, thanking her for this generosity, after which she says that she will gladly become her personal servant. Ariadne asks the girl to raise her head and says that he did all this not as an empress, but as her sister. The heroine says that she wants to see the duke's daughter happy, so she asks her to forget about her duties as a servant for today. Ashhair tells her sister that she has prepared a gift for her to bless her. Anakin opens the box, which contains a luxurious necklace with a large black gemstone. Everyone in the room gasps in amazement when they see that the gift for the personal servant is the jewelry of the previous empress. The duke looks at the necklace in disbelief, and tears appear in his eyes. Countess Hermann says that giving the late empress's jewel to her cousin is clearly too much. However, the woman still congratulates the duke, saying that his daughter has now inherited the name of Empress Anastasia. Looking at her majesty, Rikiel remembers her words that she would definitely show her trust in their family. The title of the empire's treasure has now passed to Penelope, and there are no longer those who believe that the imperial family and the Duchy of Rikiel are separated. The countess reflects that this is a rather unexpected step on the part of the empress, who was ignored even in a small state. The man smiled at his niece, not understanding how she could be so similar to his sister. A touched Penelope looks at her majesty with gratitude, saying that she is incredibly happy now. Ariadne wants the girl to become the top of high society, and for this, she must attract exactly that much attention. Ashhair asks her sister if she has chosen a partner for the next dance, and when she hears a negative answer, she tells Anakin to become one. In order for the heroes to understand her request correctly, the Empress asks them to look at the men burning each other with their eyes for the dance with Penelope. Ariadne says that no one will think anything bad if the blonde dances with the Empress's assistant. The girl reassures the couple that they don't have to do it right now. Anakin approaches the ash-haired girl, asking her to promise that when he returns, she will dance with him. Ariadne easily accepts the offer, after which she sends the couple off to dance. The Empress warns one of her butlers that she is going to take a walk in the garden. The heroine sits down on the edge of the fountain and feels like her legs are about to fall off. The ash-haired girl clenches her fist tightly as she remembers Anakin asking if they really needed to hold the first banquet in Penelope's honor. The man was upset that the first banquet would not be dedicated to Ariadne, since she was never able to become a debutante. The main character reflects on the fact that it is too late to regret anything. Suddenly, a leopard-colored cat appears from the bushes in front of the girl. Ariadne hugs Snowball tightly, causing the animal to go into shock. Belle immediately returns to human form and, blushing, asks the heroine if she is touching him too openly. The girl says, upset, that she touched not the magician, but a fluffy cat. The Empress asks the black-haired man why he is not in the Tower of Magicians now, to which Belle reminds that he promised to return. The tower's owner puts one hand behind his back and extends the other towards Ariadne. The ash-haired girl asks in surprise what the man is up to. Belle says that it is customary to dance at a debutante ball. The main character laughs loudly, reminding the magician that this is not her ball. The black-haired man pulls the girl towards him, saying that he doesn't care about it because he came here only for her. The raccoon carefully rinses fresh fruit, removing dirt from it. The animal is distracted from its important task by Belcarian, who has returned from the portal. The raccoon tells the teacher that the portal closes at 12, so he told him to come early. The magician sits down on a rocking chair that appeared out of thin air and reminds Ruma that fruits grown with magic do not need to be washed. The raccoon gets angry at these words, saying that all food must be processed before consumption. Having calmed down, Ruma asks the owner of the tower if he enjoyed the ball. Belle looks up at the sky, thoughtfully asking the raccoon's question. The man recalls that when he and Ariadne were alone, it seemed to him as if there were only them in this world. Although the banquet was in full swing, all the voices around the ash-haired girl disappeared. A joyful smile appears on the black-haired man's face, and he tells the student that he really enjoyed the ball. Ruma says with admiration that his secret training as a teacher in the backwater of the fortress bore fruit. Belle remembers her dancing with the raccoon and says that if he paid someone, he could easily learn. Ruma turns into a human and begins to dance, proudly declaring that he knew he would be useful someday. However, the boy stops when he hears the magician telling him that he is moving incorrectly. Belle notes that the Empress moved much more gracefully and confidently than the raccoon. Ruma replies that this is not surprising, because the Empress's friend is Anakin Willow, known as the most elegant partner. The guy says that the girls at the academy were even tempted just by how well the magician dances. The raccoon says that since his teacher learns the art of dance so quickly, there are no problems. But Belle looks away and says that it's not quite like that. To Ruma's surprised exclamation, the man says that although he liked it, it wasn't easy. The black-haired man indignantly asks the raccoon why he didn't warn him that when you dance, your heart starts beating wildly. The guy grabs his tail in fear, saying that even poison doesn't affect a magician, so a lot of energy shouldn't be spent during the dance. The raccoon says in amazement that the body-strengthening magic that the devil cast might have already worn off. Belle warns Ruma not to call his mother a devil, then informs him that the magic has not worn off. The raccoon hesitantly tells the teacher that he was looking for the right time to say something important. The guy tells the magician that the Layton family has started to experience seizure symptoms again. Belle frowns, saying that this is the 5th time. The raccoon asks the tower owner what he is going to do about it, to which he receives the answer that there is no suitable treatment for these attacks. However, Ruma reminds that there is still one way, which requires the imperial family's spiritual stone. The guy suggests targeting the Empress again, since now she is the only one the mage can get close to. The raccoon reflects that since she put her soul up as payment, she doesn't have such a strong desire to live. The next moment, the owner of the Tower of Magicians grabs the guy by the throat, pinning him to the floor. The man warns that if the raccoon says such nonsense about Ariadne again, he will skin him and make a rug for the Empress. Ruma raises her hands up, promising not to talk about Her Majesty's soul anymore. The magician lets the guy go and tells him that he is going to Layton to find at least some kind of clue. Lying on the bed, the ash-haired girl thanks Anakin for being able to figure out how to provide the people with a new treasure of the Empire. Ariadne asks the magician whether the Duchess gave her anything after the banquet, but he answers negatively. However, the fair-haired man notes that at the ball he crossed paths with Penelope's first brother, Duke Damien, and the second, Valand. The man reports that although they were confused, he noticed that the brothers were very proud of their sister. The happy heroine falls onto the bed, hoping that the Duke also reacted well. The magician approaches the Empress and reminds her that she never danced with him. Ariadne apologizes to the man, saying that she completely forgot about it while she was going out into the garden. Anakin asks the girl if she enjoyed dancing with the owner of the Tower of Magicians. The Empress replies that Belle is rather strange, because he comes when you don't call him and leaves when you ask him to stay. When the fair-haired man says that the black-haired man acts like a cat, the heroine shudders and immediately tries to understand if he knows about Belle's divine incarnation. Anakin reasons that such behavior should be typical for the black-haired man, because his divine essence is a leopard. The Empress's assistant asks her not to become attached to the tower's owner under any circumstances. The fair-haired man says that it is impossible to predict the magician. Because of this, he can become the one who will harm the girl, clouding her mind. Ariadne understands why Anakin is asking her to be careful, because he has dealt with people many times before without batting an eye. However, the girl also knows that the man did all this to protect her. After finishing her rest, the Empress rises and tells her assistant that they need to prepare for tomorrow's meeting. The heroine smiles brightly, suggesting that the fair-haired man think together about how to shut Baron Tubert's mouth. At the meeting, the Baron tells Her Majesty that the issue of increasing funding for the war in Kesman can no longer be postponed. Shaking his head, the man says that the Empress took the most valuable things from the dowry, so something else should be put in their place. The Baron suggests replacing the items with the opal of King Rothman II, but the ash-haired girl interrupts him, asking the others if there are any other suggestions. Silence falls in the hall, and Ariadne begins to think that everyone agrees with the Baron's proposal, but suddenly, one raised hand appears. Baron Bent tells the Empress that for the sake of the Empire, this war must be ended as soon as possible. The man says that it is better to actively try to achieve peace rather than increase the size of the army. The heroine notes that Bent looks very much like a man who is in league with the Archduke, but he does not agree with either the Baron or Acilier's actions. Tubert shouts to the Baron that Kesman's soldiers are uneducated and rude, so even if they try to achieve peace, it will be in vain. The man says that those who defend the North have dedicated their lives to war without sleep or rest, but if they tell them that help will not arrive, then this will already be a fraud. Tubert reports that Kesman's army is very powerful, and if they do not put pressure on them now, they will be able to reach the Imperial Palace. Ariadne asks the Baron if they sent an army there to avoid such an outcome. The Empress carefully reads the documents on the financing of the army, after which she says that on this day, the previous emperor could build 10 imperial palaces in Kesman. Tubert jumps up from his seat, saying that the girl cannot know anything about financing the war since she only recently ascended to the throne. The Baron tells the heroine that if they do not listen to the Archduke, then someone else will invade their territory while the war in Kesman drags on. Ariadne realizes that this was the map with which the Archduke and Tubert put pressure on the palace and the aristocrats. If Acilier and Duke Rikel were removed, it would be difficult for others to manage the enormous magic. The Rikel family has long since stopped interfering in politics, as they are threatened that at the most important moment, help will not come and the palace will be in danger if they do not follow the Archduke. Acilier continues to be sponsored because no one else can protect the empire from external threats, and there are practically no soldiers left in the palace. The Empress is irritated that this is precisely why this useless war has dragged on for 4 years. Tubert informs the ruler that even her predecessor did not contradict the opinion of the Archduke. The heroine sighs, saying that she herself knows what happened before. Ariadne looks closely at the Baron, reminding him that her reign has now begun. The ash-haired woman reminds the man of his words about the entire army being in the north now, so if they were suddenly attacked, they would be in the minority. The main character says that since Kesman is so strong, it was necessary to prepare for the fact that they would reach the palace and demand that their army be strengthened by any means. The girl suggests that since they have not yet been able to end the war with such huge funding, they need to think about another way to solve this problem. The Duke raises his hand, saying that their family is willing to provide soldiers and ask his eldest son Damien to be responsible for helping them. Hearing this, all the nobility looked at Rikel in amazement. Ariadne smiles tenderly, saying that the Duke's decision means a lot to her. The aristocrats begin to whisper among themselves, discussing how the loser from the south has suddenly decided to interfere in political affairs. The nobility notes that if the Duke does this, then the Baron's words lose their meaning. Tubert tries to stand his ground, telling the Empress that protecting the palace is a serious matter and cannot be decided so suddenly if someone simply said they would protect it. Lord Nor asks the Empress not to entrust the protection of the palace to just one family, since the Duke may have some of his own intentions. Hearing this, Rikel tells the man to watch his words, causing him to immediately shut up. Tubert suggests that the girl find another candidate who could restrain the Rikel family. Ariadne is angry that the man is stubborn, because it has become disadvantageous for him that no one has said a word about the Aciliers defending the palace. The ash-haired girl smirks, proud that she foresaw this outcome. Everyone in the room freezes when a loud noise comes from behind the door. A huge leopard bursts into the room, frightening everyone with its appearance. Ariadne tells the beast that she has already begun to worry that he will not become the main character today. Bel turns into a human and, apologizing for being late, says that he will definitely atone for his guilt. The nobles are amazed to hear that the master of the Tower of Magicians, Belcarion himself, has joined their meeting. The magician tells those present that he heard in passing that someone else was needed to restrain the Rikel family, so he is ready to become that person. Tubert indignantly says that the lands of Furchen have never interfered in the affairs of the Empire, and they do not have an army of such a scale. Bel releases her claws and, smiling predatorily, says that he is much better than any army. Frightened, Tubert falls silent and cowardly steps back. The magician proudly tells the Empress that he is ready to come to her aid at any time if she calls him. The Baron winces when he hears that this issue can be closed. The ruler announces that she refuses the Acilier's request and orders a representative to be sent to Kesmana to conduct negotiations. Ariadne reports that she is entrusting the negotiations to Baron Bent. Before the meeting began, Anakin told the Empress that if they put Bant in charge of the negotiations, they would see results in less than a month. Ariadne says, upset, that everything is so easy that she doesn't even have anything to do, but her assistant denies this, saying that the return of those who are now in the north is only the beginning of the journey. The blonde man tells the heroine that they will need the help of Duke Rikel, as he has power comparable to the influence of the Archduke. The ash-haired woman says excitedly that Rikel has hardly gotten involved in politics over the past 10 years. Anakin reasons that the aristocrats will most likely demand a force that can contain and suppress the traitors. The hero's conversation is interrupted by a loud scream from a girl. Anakin and Ariadne run out of the room and see a mage standing next to Penelope, covered in water. The blonde covers the Empress with her body, telling her to quickly call security, since some strange guy entered her bedroom. However, instead of the expected reaction, the Duke's daughter hears laughter behind her. Anakin tells the girl that he can now rest easy since she cares so much about Her Majesty. Ariadne informs the blonde that this wet boar is her guest. The main character tells the magician that since he is here, they need to talk. After giving her a towel, the ash-haired girl asks the mage if he is okay, to which he replies that although he is angry, he will be lenient with her servant. When the girl asks Bel what brought him here, he asks in response if she is glad to see him. The man reminds Ariadne that she was very happy when he came in the form of a cat. The heroine laughs and tells the owner of the tower that there is no one in the palace except him, to whom she would always be glad. The magician decides to ask the Empress what she wanted to talk to him about. Ariadne asks Belle to join tomorrow's meeting of the aristocrats and offer his leadership power on par with Duke Rickle. The girl explains her request by the fact that in the Empire, besides the Archduke, only the head of the lands of Ferschen is capable of holding back the Duke from the south. Ashherd says that this is not an order from the Empress, but a request, so the man can refuse. Belle approaches Ariadne's face and, smiling, says that he likes her proposal. The black-haired man tells the girl that he also wants to offer something. The magician asks the Empress to allow him to go to Kesman when Baron Bent goes there. The Empress easily agrees, but asks to tell her the reason. The magician says that in that place, he found traces of the one he has been looking for a long time. Ariadne decides to clarify 3 things. The first is that Baron Bent is responsible for the negotiations, and the magician is only accompanying him. The second condition of the ash-haired girl is to help the Baron if he asks for it. The Empress's final condition is that if she asks the magician to return, he must do so immediately. When the black-haired man is about to leave, Ariadne wishes him a safe journey as a farewell. Belle's heart begins to beat faster when he hears such warm words of farewell. Baron Bent was taken aback by the attention he was receiving, but he was adamant that this was a chance to end the unnecessary war. After this, Baron Tubert protested with the other followers of the Archduke, but Anakin personally dealt with them all with the help of the law and talented speeches. A few days later, the funding issue was finally closed. Ashherd tells Anakin that Penelope really was the queen of society. The girl says that although she is fair-haired and not as brave as Anastasia, she quickly made friends with the young aristocrats. The heroine tells Anakin that she was afraid that Penelope would have a hard time with the older generations because of her age. The magician replies that there is someone else who is capable of influencing the older generation. The man is talking about Countess Hermann, who is famous for her extensive connections from her youth. That is why the woman knows everyone who has power on this continent, and her influence on the arts is incredible. Ariadne asks her assistant if there is a chance that the Countess will not break her connection with Archduke Asilier. The fair-haired man says that, looking at Baron Tubert's reaction and Her Majesty's solidarity with Rickle, the woman was already beginning to doubt. The magician whispers to the Empress that the Countess's cough has gotten worse lately. Anakin doesn't have time to say anything more as they are interrupted by Countess Hermann greeting Her Majesty. The woman introduces the ash-haired Marquis Basaniel, saying that he really wanted to meet her. The man greets the Empress, saying that he has come here specifically to meet her. Ariadne and Anakin flinch at the mention of the Marquis name, as the man is considered one of the richest men in the Empire and has a large amount of fertile land in the east. The main character reflects on the fact that she wanted to make friends with Basaniel while Asilier was not in the palace, but the Marquis himself came from afar. Aristocrats who own distant lands are considered a good source of income for the imperial family, so they often act arrogantly. Ariadne wonders if this arrogant attitude could be directed at her now, but seeing the Marquis's face, she realizes that it looks more like bribery. Basaniel invites the Empress to his residence. The ash-haired girl understands that the man may be pursuing his own selfish goals, but she also knows that this is her chance. The heroine smiles brightly, happily accepting the Marquis's invitation. A happy smile appears on the man's face, and he sincerely thanks the Empress. As Basaniel leaves, Ariadne asks Anakin if the Marquis was always so friendly. The fair-haired man replies that the man is called a cold Marquis who lives alone and is only interested in history. Anakin remembers something, after which he tells Her Majesty that Basaniel could have been affected by spring. When the ash-haired girl arrives at Basaniel's residence, she is amazed to hear that the power of money is truly great. The Empress's assistant says that the Basaniel family has always been rich, so the residence is second only to the Asiliers in size. The blonde man says shyly that this is passionate first love. Ariadne realizes that Anakin is talking about the love between Marquis Basaniel and a simple girl from the country of Vidal. 5 years ago, the kingdom of Vidal was a small state under the rule of the Empire, consisting of only a few islands on the coast. Rumor has it that the people of Vidal, both now and 5 years ago, have been unable to establish good relations with the Empire. People say that the people of Vidal worship strange gods and know a secret way to curse a person they hate. It is believed that if you swim with these people, they will not let you swim to the surface until you drown. The Vidal people are said to have blue hair and pale skin, just like the descendants of the sea god from legend. Their unusual appearance and strange customs of life were at odds with the way of life of the Empire's population, so they could not be accepted. If Baron Tubert had not spread vile rumors about Vidal in order to highlight the merits of the Archduke, then things would not have come to this. The Marquis runs up to the Empress and immediately thanks her for visiting his humble home. Entering the residence, Ariadne realizes that there is no hint of modesty here. Basaniel awkwardly asks Her Majesty if she would mind if one of his acquaintances joined them. Having received approval, the man asks the maids to call that person. A girl with soft blue hair enters the room, introducing herself as Viola. With the Empress's permission, the blue-haired man sits down next to the Marquis, with whom they exchange tender glances. Basaniel admits that he called Ariadne to his residence because he wanted to ask for something. The man enthusiastically says that Lady Rykiel's debut at the Imperial Palace was on a completely different level. The Marquis intertwines his fingers with Viola, after which he tells her that since ancient times, a real man was called someone who could make his beloved happy. Basaniel says he wants to give Viola an unforgettable debut, like Lady Rykiel's. Ariadne immediately interrupts the Marquis, saying that she will not allow any exceptions, and Penelope is her relative, so this is permissible for her. The ash-haired woman says she understands that the man wants to pave the way for his beloved, who is not connected to high society in any way. Basaniel's face turns sad when the Empress says that she cannot grant such a privilege just because of his request. Viola tells her lover that it is enough for her that she was able to meet him once. Although the girl tells the man not to worry about the refusal, he still asks Her Majesty to listen to him. The Marquis assures that if the Empress refuses him after what he is about to tell, he will no longer talk about the debut. Basaniel told the ash-haired girl that the kingdom of Vidal was destroyed 5 years ago and became part of the empire, forcibly moving to the mainland. The man says that he wanted to learn more about the history of this kingdom, so the coast of Vidal became his home. Last summer, the Marquis was sailing on the sea, enjoying the fresh air, but suddenly his ship was attacked. At the moment when the man was already thinking about death, Violetta, who was helping with navigation on the ship, saved him by walking through the fire. The girl hugged the Marquis tightly and helped him swim all the way to land. Basaniel fell in love with his savior and asked her to become his lover. The man cuddles up to the blue-haired girl, thanking her for accepting him. Such a good-for-nothing. The Marquis continues his story, saying that after this, rumors began to spread that his lands had been captured by the descendant of a demon, a mermaid. Ariadne asks in bewilderment whether many people really believed this. Anakin tells the Empress that these rumors were described in great detail. The magician says that people were talking about the devil's mark on the mermaid's neck, and someone saw the Marquis fall into the sea. Basaniel reports that he found the source of these rumors and realized that it was the work of his family, who wanted to force him to marry. The man says that according to the laws of the Empire, these people were beheaded, but rumors that he worships devils only grew stronger. The Marquis says that he stopped to prevent rumors from spreading even more, but Violetta's body was left with burns that cannot be removed. The blue-haired girl pushes her hair aside and shows the guests the scar on her neck. The Marquis says that he no longer wants to hear these dirty rumors about the one who saved him and who was left with a burn because of it. Ariadne says thoughtfully that a man wants to debut in the Imperial Palace only because it is a quick way to become famous in high society. Basaniel says that he saw how much attention Lady Rykiel received, so he thinks that if Violetta found her place in high society, the people of the Empire would love her. The Empress tells the man that this debut will not solve his problem, to which he replies that he understands everything. However, the ash-haired girl says that there is no need to overload herself by breaking the palace traditions. The girl says that she has a much better solution for the Marquis. A man yells at Rick Tabian, who broke some dishes, that he is not capable of anything. The former actor begs for another chance, but the older man again shouts that he is fired. Rick walks down the dark hallway, crying because Darren's best actor has to endure such humiliation. The fair-haired man decided to try his hand at the Empire, and specifically changed his name to start from scratch. However, the guy immediately regretted it when at every audition he was laughed at because of the length and pretentiousness of his name. A stranger, hiding his identity behind a robe, approaches the blonde man and asks him if he is Rick Tabian. The guy is forcibly taken into the room, and he begins to beg on his knees not to touch him, because he has nothing. The Empress removes her hood, telling the actor to calm down. The fair-haired man screams in fear that the Queen is standing in front of him, but, seeing the sword being drawn, he immediately stops and says that Her Majesty is standing in front of him. Anakin whispers to the ash-haired girl if they're sure everything will work out, since the guy seems pretty dim-witted. The main character gets down to business, offering Rick to play the lead role in the play again. Hearing the proposal, hope lights up in the guy's eyes. Ariadne watches the blonde man's rehearsal attentively, noting that he plays well. Rick's teacher tells the Empress that he was initially worried about her, allowing him to beat Rick if he disobeyed, but assures her that he is trying hard enough anyway. The ash-haired girl thinks that the blonde-haired one is behaving so obediently because she presented him with the fact that he is responsible for everything that happens on stage. The Marquis watched the rehearsal the entire time, and after it was over, he decided to thank Her Majesty once again for her help. The man says that after the performance ends, the people will definitely change their opinion of the people of Vidal. Viola delightedly tells the Empress that although there are less than 15 days left until the performance, everything already looks amazing even without the scenery. The blue-haired girl happily says that she can't wait to see her friend Lola take the stage again. The Marquis tells Ariadne that he wishes to stop the terrible rumors about Viola and the people of Vidal so that they can live peacefully in the Empire. Basaniel informs the girl that he will take care of all the affairs that the Archduke was conducting, together with whomever she appoints. The ash-haired woman stops the man, asking him not to fawn over her because of this. Although the heroine intended to become friends with the Marquis, she finds it strange that he so easily went over to her side. Basaniel tells the Empress that he is a simple man, therefore, as he said, he is ready to do anything for the sake of his beloved. Ariadne hesitantly reminds the Marquis that he could suffer great harm. Looking lovingly at the blue-haired girl, the man tells the heroine that what is connected with Viola cannot harm him. Ash-haired guesses that Basaniel might have heard about her relationship with the Archduke from Countess Hermann. The Marquis says he wants to thank her for giving him the chance to perform a play with such an interesting plot and covering all the expenses. Ariadne says that she should thank the man for providing the actor from Vidal, but Rick's teacher immediately points out that in acting, origin does not matter. The heroine agrees with this because the leader of the Wolves of the Scene is known for his stunning castings, which are attended by everyone from criminals to aristocrats. The girl asks the leader if he likes the production. The man thoughtfully says that since Ariadne has already heard about Rick's efforts, now she is interested in Lola. Instead of answering, the leader of the wolves offers the ash-haired girl to look at something. The girl with blue hair emotionally asks what the man is looking for in her sea. Rick stops Lola, asking her to control her voice at this point so that it doesn't shake. The blue-haired girl, laughing loudly, asks the guy why he himself is shaking like an aspen leaf, as if he is afraid that she will hit him. The other girls shout at the blonde man that he has put Lola in a difficult situation again. The leader shows the Empress that the actors have been protecting Lola since day one. The man says that the blue-haired girl became very friendly with the others, joking about such insignificant things. The teacher smiles mysteriously, saying that when Her Majesty sees the stage, she will be very surprised. The man laughs loudly, saying that one sponsor gave them a huge amount of money, so staging with the sea is no longer a problem for them. Ariadne ponders the leader's words, realizing that it is not easy to make good stage decorations using an ordinary stage. When the ash-haired woman asks if the man used the artifact, he enthusiastically says that it is not just an artifact. The teacher explains that these are such luxurious artifacts that the luminous pearl, which can be used to find one's way in the dark, cannot be compared to them. The heroine smiles when she realizes that she can only think of one person who is capable of providing such valuable things. The noble ladies are actively discussing the new production of the Wolves stage, which the Empress personally sponsored. A man standing nearby tells the lady that he is hesitating whether to take a ticket or not, since the plot of the play has not yet been revealed. The blonde girl reports that all tickets for the first performance have already been sold out. The lady tells the men not to worry, because she will watch the production very carefully to tell everything in detail. The aristocrat replies that it will be a simple love story that cannot even be called art. The blonde smirks, saying that with such words the man shows that he does not really appreciate art. The girl speaks enthusiastically of the Empress, saying that she opened a tea room in the garden for the sake of young aristocrats and maintained leadership in the war in Kesman. The rest of the aristocrats supportively say that even Anakin Willow sided with Her Majesty, and the Master of the Tower of Magicians does not contradict her. At the same time, the main character sits in the greenhouse and hears everything that is said about her. The Empress's assistant laughingly says that young aristocrats are great lovers of gossip. Ariadne agrees with the man, after which she says that she still has not seen Countess Hermann. The fair-haired man tells the heroine that the Countess has not been coming to the palace lately, where she used to appear every day. Anakin assumes that the woman wants to curry favor with Archduke Azalier, which is why she doesn't come here. The man says he didn't think the Countess would stop showing up here before the show even started. The assistant reasons that if a person does not appear in a place for a long time, no matter how influential he is, he will be forgotten. Ariadne says thoughtfully that Hermann turned out to be much more cautious than she thought. If rumors spread that the Countess, the leading lady of high society, would not join the play, her authority would be significantly diminished. However, the ash-haired girl does not intend to give up, because the one she definitely wants to see at the performance is Countess Hermann. Ariadne tells her assistant that she needs to go meet someone alone. The main character visits Dr. Rudes, who greets the Empress with awkward movements due to lack of proper etiquette training. The girl tells Her Majesty that her new laboratory is 1,000,000 times better than the one in Diran. Ariadne tells the doctor that she constantly sits in her laboratory, conducting research, and never goes outside. The ash-haired girl invites the girl to attend a production she has prepared at the theater, to which she immediately agrees. Hearing that many aristocrats are planning to attend the performance, Rudz asks Her Majesty if Countess Hermann will be coming. The Empress asks the girl why she is asking the Countess, to which the doctor replies that the woman looked sick, so she suspects that she will soon die.